Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to FSR World.
Who's going to break Hayesmith's world title?
For Mike Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! He's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
The Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship is back for 2023, and for the first time in 5 years we head to the Sakhir circuit in Bahrain for our season opener. It's a new season with a new car, a hybrid system and tyres that will be a big talking point in the 57 laps today. It's a new challenge for everyone, including the many new names on this grid. There are still space for 3 drivers though who have previously won the VCO World Championship, and in an increased field of 30 for 2023. We're looking forward to another fantastic season. Welcome to Bahrain and to the 2023 season. My name is Ewan O'Leary alongside Cam Roger for the evening, the opening round of the season. It's great to be back, Cam, a little bit later than usual, but we're expecting the same great action and the same FSR racing that we've had throughout 2022 and all of the years previous.
Yeah, almost 9 months ago, we finished the season back in August 2022, where, of course, Colin Spork rounded off the championship that time around. It's been a long winter. A lot of things has happened. In the background of FSR, presidents have changed. It was me. It's now Cass Rietveld, who has been setting everything up. And over the course of the winter, new car has been made, a new sort of slightly differently direction with the way that the league is going. And it's obviously worked out well, as you say. 30 cars on the field. I cannot remember the last time we had a full 15-car field, which is the max entry list of the licenses to the World Championship. So it's absolutely amazing to see all the teams coming in, and hopefully it's going to be a great season.
This is the circuit we'll be using here this afternoon, or this evening more accurately, under the lights here in the Middle East. It's Bahrain, it's 15 corners around here and pretty wearing on the tyres as well, as we're going to discover throughout. We'll talk a little bit on strategy a little bit later, but it's a fantastic place to open out the season, as Formula 1 has tended to do recently. We haven't tended to do that in the Formula SimRacing World Championship for quite some time now. As I mentioned, it was 2018 the last time we visited here. Michele D'Alessandro taking the win on that occasion on the way to his one and only World Championship. In terms of the other circuits we'll be going to this season, it's mostly familiar names. However, there are a couple of surprises, this one being one of them, I would say. We haven't been at Barcelona too often in recent years, neither Montreal, but other than that, it is recognisable names across the board here, including our famous finale at Interlagos, of course, Cam, which saw so much drama at the end of 2022.
Yeah, it's a pretty spicy calendar, to be honest. Just 9 races, so one less than what we had last year. Of course, that is due to the fact of the season starting a little bit later in the year as well, and just the available dates. But it's still 9 great races, and as you see with Barcelona and Montreal coming back on the calendar, so it's not just the DLC and official tracks on the games. A couple of other ones been added in to spice it up a little bit, and all the usual tracks that have added the best racing to the calendar. So I think it's going to be a pretty fast and frantic series, and the points are going to come and go pretty quickly. So by the time you get to Montreal, if you haven't got some good points to your name, you're really going to be struggling to get the championship.
Yeah, there's really not time to make that kind of space up in a 9-round championship, the shortest we've ever seen in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, or at least for quite some time as well. Let's talk a little bit through some of the teams that are on the grid here for this new that, of course, include Burst Esports, of course, you'll be very familiar with, Cam. We've also got RHG Esports here, Scuderia Ferrari Esports team, Visceral Esports, Alpine Esports as well. Some very, very big names. And as I mentioned in the intro, 3 previous world champions as well. It's pretty hard to kind of take a pick of the bunch here, Cam, because there's so many great teams, so many great drivers as well, but also some new names who we don't really know what to expect from fully just yet.
Yeah, I do not know what to predict coming into this season. As you say, of course, we've got a lot of the big names coming back into it, and that, of course, maybe you're going into the likes of them for the championship, but then there's those of other drivers as well. And also we saw some teams like Royal Blue and Super Venturi coming in late into the season last year, but then they were sort of near the top, but now there's so many other teams. Are they going to be filed back a little bit further? And actually, maybe not the case, because Grankvist for Super Venturi is up at the top of the practice time, so you've got just under 5 minutes to go. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a difficult guessing game to work out who's going to be on top. And of course, with this new car as well, Ewan, we should probably mention that it is hybrid now as well, which is a huge change and something that the drivers have had to learn over the past few weeks.
We'll get into that a little bit as well, especially over the race as well, which will be very, very key. So far, though, Jan Grankvist has the current best time here in qualifying. In practice. It's a good start for him. Just over 4 minutes remaining until we get into qualifying. Then we've got Jake Dennehan, who's, was second place there briefly. Took the pre-season championship that we had just before this one over the course of the winter. Jurnej Simoncic is here as well, and he's someone I've got to say, I was a bit surprised to see on the entry list for this year, Cam, because I thought that he was pretty much done with this World Championship now. He's won it 3 times. Why would he come back to do it again? But clearly he's missed out in 2022, wants to retain that crown again, and so it means we have the champions of the last 4 years on the grid. Of course, that being made up 3 times by Jurnej Simoncic, and of course Colin Spork, who's come to defend his title. But Jurnej Simoncic, what kind of form is he going to be in after a year away?
It's a difficult one, of course. In the world of rFactor 2, things have changed a little bit with the competitions that are available. Of course, the official GT Pro Series and Formula Pro Series have not sort of been returning this year thus far, at least. And obviously, teams don't want to sit around for too long. We are into May already this season, and a lot of these drivers are, either professional or semi-professional to some source, and the teams want to send them out into some other championships, get some exposure for them and their sponsors. And another one here is, of course, Scuderia Ferrari as well, because Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan moving from Red Bull to Ferrari over the winter as well. So due to obviously the lack of other competitions, that opens up the opportunity for teams to fill in, and we've seen that also with R8G coming in as well, Alpine, Race Clutch. So it's been a good opportunity for FSR to step up, and I think they've definitely taken that. And because at the end of the day, the drivers wouldn't be here if they're not interested in getting the championship. And for the likes of Jurnej, he's definitely a driver who just comes out and tries to win anything that he's doing. So you can bet your bottom dollar he's given all the effort that he can.
42 degrees down on the track surface at the moment, and tyres are going to be a big talking point here today, Cam. We hear it often in the real world that Bahrain is a very, very strenuous race on the tyres. That was a bit of an incident into the final corner. Dear, and it really was. It's always a talking point, especially in F1, a little bit in the WEC as well when they come here. But what about tyres around here? What are we expecting from these teams here today at a circuit that can be so strenuous from time to time in that particular department?
Yeah, so of course with this more modern open wheel format of car that we are obviously trying to replicate in the simulation, we have the 5 compounds of tyres from the C5s to the C1s. We have the middle 3, so the 4, 3 and 2 as your soft, medium and hard for this race. And the soft tyre, of course, is going to be the qualifying tyre. But when we get to the race, I don't think we're really going to be seeing them today. 57 laps around here. So I think we're definitely going to be seeing either 2 mediums and a hard, or 2 hards and a medium, something along the lines of that. We're going to be aiming for around 15 to 20 laps towards the mediums, and then somewhere around 20 to 25 on the hards, in that range. But depending on the order that you do that could be quite important. Of course, free starting tyre choice for all of the drivers as well. So we could see a few different strategies coming their way, but it's definitely going to be on the harder end of the spectrum. As you say, this track is pretty rough on tyres.
As Yannick Bock into the final corner right now in the last moments of qualifying. I have to say, one of my favourite liveries on the grid, Virtual Drivers by TX3, with the sort of lime green going on at the moment. They'll be easily identifiable throughout the World Championship in 2023. Let's have a little bit of a chat about hybrid then, Cam, because that's kind of the big change to the car this year, not least in the way they look and the way they sound, but also the way they behave as well. It's going to be in terms of the way they race each other, but also in the way of how... Oh dear, someone off in the background. How are they going to deal with it in qualifying though, Cam, with the limits they have on the hybrid system? It's not just a case of using electric energy the entire way round.
Yeah, so in the recent years where we've had a car, obviously not last year with the V10s that we had using the Formula Pro car, but in the 4 seasons before that, we had like a pseudo system. So we basically had a naturally aspirated, a turbocharged engine, I should say, that had the power output as if the hybrid was there as well. But now it's split up. So there's a hybrid in the simulation now. So there's a base ICE internal combustion engine power level, and then there's hybrid on top of that. The drivers deploy this with a button, basically like a push to pass overtake button as such. They have a limit of 55 seconds per lap, but of course, if you do all of that in one lap, you're going to be depleting the battery, and then you won't be able to use it on the next lap. So in the race, it will be a lot more subdued. It won't be used very often as such, just for overtakes and defending. But in qualifying, of course, you want to maximize the use of that 55 seconds. And around this track, pretty much every time you're flat out, you're going to be getting on that overtake button and using it on the straights. It does mean that, of course, it can be a little bit difficult, because as soon as you press the button, of course, you get a bit of a spike in power. So you've got to be careful not pressing it too early on the exit of some of the corners. But it's certainly an extra factor that the drivers need to think about this year. And of course, that means there's regen on the rear axle as well. So if you see a little bit of like hand braking into some corners, a little bit of rear locking, that could be the drivers just struggling a little bit with the rear brakes and the motors on the rear just slowing down the rear axle too much.
It's a real new mountain to climb, another thing to get your head around over the course of the 2023 World Championship. The first qualifying session underway, though. We're watching Jurnej Simičić on his outlap. Qualifying has also changed just a little bit, not least in the way that they'll be using the cars, as Cam has just explained, but also in the way that qualifying actually works in the format. We have now got a 10-minute session, as we always have before, but there's no longer a limit on the amount of laps that you can do. You can do what you like now. There's unlimited laps around all of the circuits here for 2023. But you are on your own, as previously as well, so that hasn't changed. Give you a bit of free track space. To be honest, Cam, with 30 cars out there, I'm quite glad it's a private session, because it would have been a real nightmare, and probably a steward's nightmare as well at the end of each session, figuring out who blocked who, got in the way of everyone else, and thankfully that's not something we have to deal with this season. And also, not a limit on laps either, but I do wonder whether they're going to be able to get more than 3 flying laps in anyway. I'm not sure if that rule's going to really factor in that much anyway.
Yes, so the reason really why we went to private a few years ago was also because of the slipstreaming games that came into it. Of course, teams want to get every edge, and it was a little bit silly with the amount of slipstream, and then we had sister teams working together. We had drivers getting 3 slipstreams on different teammates on a lap, and it was just getting a bit silly and out of hand. So I'm definitely glad we've gone back and we kept the private qualifying over the last couple of years. The drivers can just focus on themselves. But as you say, it's definitely an interesting one with the unlimited laps this year. The reason why we had that in previous years was to basically limit drivers to mistakes, because they had 3 hot lap attempts only during the session. Whereas now, if you make a mistake, you go back to pit lane, you have enough time to still make 3 laps as well. So definitely, it might save a couple of drivers here and there from mistakes, but even then, 10 minutes is not long, especially when we get to some of the longer tracks on the calendar.
Down in towards the very, very tricky and long braking zone down there at turn 10, arguably the most difficult braking zone on the calendar this season. On board with Jurnej Simičić at the moment as he makes his way into the final sector, which is a little bit more high speed. Turn 11, sort of more medium speed, flat out turn 12, missing that curve on the right hand side, and then braking down for another medium speed one. Turn 13, even a little bit slower than that in fact. Needing a nice run though, out of this corner, down towards the final turn. Going to use up the last little bits of hybrid now as we get out into the final few metres of this lap. Final turn as well, turn 14 and 15, which you don't really have to think about at all, for that run down to the front straight and that power towards the line. Jurnej Simičić will go over the line for the first time. It's a 27.5, and so far he sets the pace in qualifying. It doesn't last long though. Grokvist goes ahead of him, and so does Jake Dennehan with a 27.3.
Yeah, the Autumn Series winner from the Stock Car Series that we did back at the end of 2022, using that momentum he's got coming into the World Championship this year as well. He had a pretty sort of subdued first outing in the World Championship last year, but coming out hot. That is a tenth and a half quicker than anyone else as it stands, and that is a pretty fast lap. I was going to say we're probably going to be looking towards a 0.3 up there towards pole, and that is what he's done already on the first lap, and the track is only going to get faster.
I was going to say, really, is this a case of getting your first lap in as almost a banker and then winding it up throughout the session, or is it going to be an all-out kind of session where the very first lap times there could very much grab pole here?
I don't know about that one, because it's all about momentum as well, because if you get a solid first lap, that gives you confidence to push a little bit more, but then sometimes over push on your next laps. And look how close all these times are as well. Hundredths of a second between multiple of these drivers. Good to see the two TX3 cars up there in the top 6 as well, but any little mistake and you will be dropping further down. We're seeing even Dennis Jordan down there in 13th place. Alex Siebel, championship contender last year, down in 16th, 7/10 off pole.
He never qualified that great, did he, last season, Alex Siebel? He's much better in the race, I've found, and that's what nearly took him to a World Championship. Missed out by only 3 points in the first championship finale we had for quite some time in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. That was a quick view there of Petter Perlek in the Alpine Esports car starting his first lap of the session. Colin Spork, reigning champion, also doing the same. David Murchek right now on an outlap, as you can see here for Burst, and most of those who are up there towards the top of the standings are on outlaps right now. Going to be interesting to see how the Alpines get on, the only team to have 2 world champions as part of their lineup here this season, and I'm especially interested in Petter Perlek. It's been a long time now since he won that world championship, and he's had a year off as well, so I wonder what his form's going to be like.
And of course, moving to a new team as well. He's only recently joined that Alpine team from Williams, so he's maybe getting a little bit more used to the I guess the scenery and everything. All teams run a little bit differently, so hopefully it brings out the best in him. Another championship so far. He's done a few races, endurance races with Spork, and he has been up there on the pace. So let's have a look. As this is Danny Van Der Neet jumping into the Netrex entry with Carlos Martin. There was a couple of other drivers of Jan Vosnitzer and Noah Roivers in this entry who you would have seen up the top of the races last season, but unfortunately they both have backed out of it, and that is Danny Van Der Neet jumping up into the WC but jumping away from that apex.
Was a little bit, breaking a little bit too late. Purple in the first sector though for 3-time world champion Jurne Simoncic, laying down the marker right now. We're riding on board with Danny Van Der Neet in the final few corners at the moment, but Simoncic is absolutely flying. Jake Delahan did indeed start a lap time there, but didn't indeed go on with it. He's gone back to pit lane and will probably have one more go. Here's Simoncic. It's not as good in the middle sector. He pulls off to the side of the road. It doesn't look like anybody's going to touch Delahan on the second round of times.
And that is a perfect example of this new qualifying rule with the unlimited laps. Jurne saw he had enough time to back out and get round for one more, but his teammate David Mrocek across line also doesn't do a good middle sector. Personal best in the final sector and actually stays in the same position.
Somewhat remarkable given the closeness of the times. Here's Tom Latier in the race clutch car, the best of the 2 race clutches so far, the only one of the 2 to have set a time as well. He goes over the line and will not move up either. Not good enough in the second and third sectors, unfortunately. So the second round of time basically is not really proven as anything other than Jonas Braksok getting up into second place for Arnage.
And how many times has he had that second place? He needs to get that win in the World Championship. So that is a cool one. I think he has been on pole, though, actually, back in Nürburgring a couple of years ago. But definitely just by under a tenth of a second, he'll be wanting to get past Jake Denham. But front row will still be good for the Arnage competition driver.
Jonas Braksok has been on pole 3 times, by the way, in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Best championship finish was 6th back in 2021, but as you say, still looking for that illustrious race victory. Sander Callister is quite close to a race winner, at least a very good result in one of the races of 2022. He was having a storm performance. Didn't quite pan out for him in the end, but he's out there at the moment with a lap time. This will probably be his last of the session as well. The former Netrex driver finished 12th back in 2018, where we were last here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Into the middle sector right now, but not improving in the first.
Oh yeah, this is a very tricky middle sector. This is where all the tight and twisty corners are. This is where the driver really makes a difference, especially this corner here. 9 and 10 left-hander. Don't catch that front left tyre. Don't miss the apex. You've got to be getting it nailed to then also get the run onto this short but very important back straight. You'll be very interested to know you can actually lose a lot of time out of that turn 10 corner. Up the run towards turn 11. You sometimes see the drivers using the curb on the entry there, but again, a very fast corner. Got to be committed on the throttle as you work your way up the hill.
Middle sector for Sander Callas. Is it any better? Not really, I'm afraid. 10th place may well be the limit for him. By the way, the two Alpines have just been over the line. 14th and 16th they are in this lap at the moment. Jonas Braxot comes out the final corner. He begins a lap time now to end off this session. And most of all, yeah, I think everybody's just about going to make it, aren't they? There's a few in the final sector at the moment on outlaps. 1 minute to go here in qualifying. It's going to come right down to the very end. Here is Braxot. We go on board with the Arnage-Brabham collaboration that this is. Braxot looking for his 4th World Championship pole position. In towards turn 4 he'll go. Snaps towards the apex there, the right-hander. A little bit of a slide as the camber changes throughout the corner. He goes through the first sector. It's another non-improvement from another top driver.
But it's still a pretty decent first sector. He can do something with that. It's just thousands off what you would be expecting. Some drivers getting into point 1. That is a slide though on the exit there as he's trying to get on the power, trying to go on that push to pass as well. As we've been mentioning with this new hybrid system, it's a very difficult system to try and get used to. Oh, as he slided on the rear of a P10 as well, 10. So that's, yeah, possibly just pushing a little bit too much, knowing he needs to get those extra few thousandths to get that pole position.
Towards turn 1 for Jake Dennehan. He might well have done enough here already with his opening lap. He came over the line with mere seconds remaining, but might not even have to do that much else to take pole position here. There's not much improving going on here in the top 10 or so. Checker flag already waving now for those coming across the line. Here comes Dennehan through the first sector. It's another 27.2, but another non-improvement. Jake Dennehan may well have pole here.
Yeah, he might do. Oh, look at that. Just locking the rears a little bit. That's actually works really nicely to rotate the car through 8 into 9 and 10 now. Can he do a similar effect using loads of curb, actually? Trying to do a really wide line here to get the exit. And once again, sliding on the rear. It does rotate the car really nicely. When we get into the race, though, that will kill the rear tyres. So he needs to be careful about that one. Coming up to turn 11 now. As you see, he's going to use all of the curb. He's going to be getting the widest line possible to get on the power. This is looking good from Jake Dennehan, but maybe just a little bit too much rear sliding. But is it fast through the middle sector?
Here it is. What's the time? 38.5. Not an improvement. Gregfist the only one going quicker really inside the top 10. So is Sluter as well, actually in the 5th place right now. Gregfist will come through the final corner exactly the same time as we do here with Dennehan, pretty much. There's Sluter just in behind for Virtual Drivers by TX3. He'll come through the final corner. Gregfist over the line. He will not improve, neither will Dennehan. What about the Virtual Drivers by TX3 driver? It will not be an improvement. It will remain inside the top 5. And in the end, Jake Dennehan takes the first pole position of the FSR VCO World Championship 2023 season. A good lap from Dennehan, but he could have parked after the opening moments of that one, really. There was no improvements after the opening runs.
I'm so surprised to see that, because normally, obviously, the grip gets more and more, especially with 30 cars out there. You normally see an extra, tenth or two come in purely just from the grip, but all the drivers doing it pretty much on that first lap, so fair play to them. And Dennehan, not surprisingly, he won the pre-season championship that we had, and in general has just been so fast over the last 6 months or so, even the last year. He's really been improving, and to be honest, he is one of my picks for the championship. I reckon he's going to be at least top 3 when we get to Brazil.
Well, that's a dangerous game to start playing. I don't know whether I'll join in. Some surprises up and down the order, though. Some of the more recognisable names. Simoncic in 4th place. That's a decent qualifying from him. Siebel down in 9th. Bit lower than you'd expect. Dennis Jordan, 12th place. A little bit lower, maybe, but did improve late on in the session. Colin Sport, reigning champion, down in 18th place. Michi Hoyer, race winner from last season and the season before. He's won lots of races now in the FSR World Championship. 24th position for him on the standings at the moment. It's a very, very jumbled up grid compared to maybe what you might expect to see otherwise. But anyway, we'll move forward towards the race. Just, I believe, in warm-up at the moment. so we'll just enjoy that for a moment. But here's the starting grid while we get through warm-up. Jake Dennehan on the front row with Janis Braksuk. Then it's going to be Grankvist and Simincic on the next row. Mark Sluter and David Mocek just behind them. The other virtual drivers by TX3 driver Yannick Bock will be 7th, ahead of Tom Lottieu in the race clutch car. Alex Siebel and Adam Maguire round out the top 10. First to the ground effects, 11th for Sander Callas. Then it's Dennis Jordan, who's in that 12th position, that just ahead of the 2015 World Champion Petter Perlak for Alpine Esports in 13th. Solzuk's 14th, ahead of Carlos Martin, a late substitute for the Netrex GP team. Royal Blue Racing will have Matthew Williams in the 16th position. Liam Duval, 17th, a great opening round of the season in 2022 for him. What's the opening got for this time? Reigning champion Colin Spork alongside him. Christoph Schell and Stavros Mudzadis round out the top 20. Kostas Van Vukas will be 21st, 20 positions behind his teammate. Darius Andre for Visceral will be 22nd, ahead of Giordano Valeriano. Then it's Mitzi Hoyer in 24th. His fellow Burst Esport companion Damian Skovrov will be 25th, ahead of Yuka-Pekka Lalu. Danny van der Neet will be on the 14th row with Martin Mergeli, and bringing up the rear will be Mika Hakimi making his World Championship debut, ahead of Pro Champion from 2022, Cosmo Pisuto, Royal Blue Racing. It's a huge grid, to be honest, Cam, and some surprises up and down the field. Probably the biggest of them, Mitzi Hoyer down in 24th.
Yeah, he was certainly struggling over the last couple of days, in the last week or so of the practice in the car, not quite getting to the pace that he wanted, and that is obviously evident here as well in qualifying. It's certainly a difficult car actually to get used to, and as we've been seeing with how close it is on the lap times, if you're missing those couple of tenths here or there, you really are going to be struggling. Mitchie's normally one of those people who can pull those couple of tenths just out of nowhere for the qualifying, but obviously just struggling a bit today at Bahrain.
Yes, that certainly seems to be the case. Other surprises, the two Alpines outside the top 10, I guess, as well. But in the kind of mess of all of these things changing and lots of new names up towards the front, the one thing that remains constant is Jone Simincic up towards the front. He qualified 4th. And based on the pace that we know he has and the knowledge that he has about winning FSR races, he's got to be a good pick from the second row to win this race, surely.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the more strategic drivers out there. So he will be thinking already, how can I get ahead of these guys? How can I use a bit of strategy, use the hybrid maybe in a certain way during the race to really come good? Because one thing that we're going to see, especially with the hybrid, when we come to the race, because you can only really use it for about 5 seconds or so a lap, we're going to see a lot of people saving it in the earlier parts of the race. And then at some point, you're going to have to just dump it on a straight. You're going to have to just absolutely go for an overtake and commit to it, because once you dump it and you use all of that energy at one point, you have to make it work, whether it's you defending or overtaking. You've got to make it work so you don't waste it.
In terms of what we're going to see here in the opening moments, you of course get free tyre choice as to what you start on. What do you think is the best idea? Because while the soft tyre may have the most grip initially, as far as we can tell, it might not last that long.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one when it comes to that. But yeah, I do reckon that we're not going to be seeing the longest stints in the world today.
Certainly in terms of the opening to this race. Lots of medium tyres, lots of hard tyres as well, I can tell you from seeing these opening moments. We have just moved forward in towards the race session, and so far 2 of the top 10 have gone for hard tyres, 8 of them for the mediums as far as I can see. But we are expecting a 2-stop race today, Cam. It just depends on how you split that up really, and which tyre compounds you use. That's where the interest is going to be.
Yes, if someone at the front starts on the hards, that is going to be a very interesting decision. I definitely think we're going to see drivers leaning towards a double hard and 1 medium, purely because you can push it a little bit further. But if you want to get that extra little bit of speed, then we'll definitely be seeing some medium tyres, some double medium tyres come out. So as we go on to the formation lap, we of course have to see once the tyre graphics update what everyone is going on to, and just to confirm that. But definitely it's going to be a strategic one today. You're going to see some undercuts being very powerful as well.
Well, I thought the graphics had the timing screens had updated. Apparently they haven't. If they're updated now, then almost everybody's on the hards. So that could be interesting, but it's a little bit harder to see this year, the writing and the colours on the side, I've got to say, based on the regulations that we have. It's a very much a new look FSR car built for this season, and the hybrid racing was going to hopefully play into the hands of us, as hopefully it will entertain us throughout the season. Very, very big field though, top 20 scoring points once again, with I believe is it 30 for a race win,
yeah.
and then going on down from that. So we've got the same point system once again that produced such a fantastic finale 1 year ago, and with only 9 races, you'd have to say that the chances of another one will be quite likely.
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be a close championship, and especially the fact that there aren't many races, the differential isn't going to open up that much. So it's definitely going to be close. If you keep yourself around about the top 5, if you can be consistently in the top 5, you definitely are going to have a shout at the championship this season. And as you say, with the points, it seemed to work really well last year, because also it gives the sort of midfield pack quite a lot to fight for. If it's just the top 10, basically everyone between that like 11th and 20th place, like the middle 10 of the race, even though they might have a half decent race, they're not actually going to get anything for it. Whereas now they actually will get a couple of points, and now will definitely open up some opportunities later in the season.
It certainly will. We're hearing, by the way, that we'll have to do a race restart here in a couple of moments' time before we actually get things underway. We'll get more information to you as it comes to us, but that, I believe, is what's going to take place. As far as I can work out, those qualifying results will stand, but so far, we are hearing that the race will just have to be restarted before we get underway. So that's why we're not in the session any longer seeing that formation lap. So that's what we'll have to contend with. A little bit more anticipation, a little bit more nerves, really. This was really unsettled a few, I would imagine. I'd be quite unsettled if I was a driver, to be honest, to have your rhythm broken up by that. But it's going to be about who deals with this best now, and we'll obviously find that out over the course of the next half an hour or so, probably less. But a bit of disruption for the drivers, unfortunately.
Yeah, who's got the head on them to keep calm is really the bigger question, because, as you say, you get in a bit of a rhythm. You have a couple of minutes of warm-up session, you go to the grid, you set your fuel, check your tyres, you go obviously onto the physical grid itself, and then you start pulling away. You're getting mentally prepared, you're warming up your brakes, you're warming up the tyres, and then all of a sudden, boom, you go back to the garage. And obviously in the sim, it is literally, boom, back into the garage. No, pushing the car back like it would be in real life. So it's a very sudden change, and you have to get your head around that very quickly. But obviously the top drivers, they'll be calm, they'll be working out. But some people, maybe some of the rookies in the standings, they might be starting to get a little bit of twitchy feet, and hopefully that doesn't cause any issues when we get to turn 1 on the first lap.
Hopefully not. We'll see what happens when we do get there. But you say that it could be a problem for some of the more inexperienced drivers, I should say. But you've got to think about those who are making their World Championship debut here. But then again, they have already competed in things like the Pro Championship, the Academy Championship, maybe before that. The likes of Cosmo Prosciutto, for example, has won the Pro Championship. Yuka Lalu was runner-up to him. We saw Matthew Williams win 4 of those races that season. So, they're not exactly huge problems in terms of driver stress and all of that kind of thing, because after all, they will have done rFactor 2 Formula SimRacing events beforehand, and that experience will surely stand them in good stead. It's maybe those who haven't done that who you might be a little bit worried about, but you'd surely think that at this level they should all be fine.
Yeah, you'd hope so. And as you're right, the people, the newer sort of rookies to the championship, like Van Vukas, Prosciutto, etc., they've had a lot of experience over the last year or couple of years, winning races and such. So they will definitely be there. But of course, there's always that little bit of extra pressure that comes to you when you go to the World Championship, and especially now with a couple of new teams really committing as well properly. As we mentioned last year, like Royal Blue, Super Venturi, they came late to the season, so they weren't quite committed at the beginning of the year. Then they came. Whereas now, straight away from the beginning of the season, they're like, right, we're having a couple of drivers there, and you need to step up, because at the end of the day, there is still prize money out there, and the teams want to be getting their share of that.
They will indeed. It's a long way to go until we get. We are indeed having to restart I don't know if it's a server restart. We are having a new one, so the grid will be set very shortly. and then we'll be into the race properly as well. I wonder if, because everybody's already loaded into one race here and started the formation lap, I do wonder a little bit, Cam, about the mind games now with strategy, because everybody will have seen what everybody else is going to do on strategy initially, especially those around them. I wonder, especially at the front, whether those mind games will start to come into play now and think, well, if he's gone onto those tyres, then maybe I should change and I should do mediums instead of hards that I initially chose. And I just wonder whether people are going to stick to their guns, or whether they will start to waver a little bit and their minds will start to wander as they've seen what some of their rivals have decided to do on that formation lap at the very least.
I think the word or the phrase for that is just focus on yourself, because other people are going to do what other people do. If you are confident in your strategy, then you're not going to be changing anyway. If you're unconfident in your strategy, then I guess maybe you will be thinking about that. But definitely, if you see that starting on the mediums is the best way to go, then you just got to start on that and commit. If you start changing it around because you're overthinking what other people are doing, then that's going to be a bit of an issue. So definitely just go with your plan, go with your strategy, get your head back in the game, keep calm, and then your race will be fine. So there's definitely no need to worry too much for that. And most of these teams, just looking in the Team Suit channel, they definitely have engineers and people behind them as well. It's not just the two drivers there. So they definitely have a lot of people helping them and guiding them through this process.
Now, I do wonder once again how important the team managers are going to be, and well, I guess in America we call it a driver spotter, wouldn't you? But a team manager or whatever talking to the respective drivers. We speak a lot about this in longer races, very long races, about strategy and whatever, and talking it out between your teammates. But how much you've been involved in more racing than I have, Cam. How much discussion is there going on during the race between a team, especially when you've got a team principal there? What can they actually do from that position in such a short amount of time?
Well, I mean, just from my experience, there's quite a lot of talk actually at that point, especially if you've got a proper engineer in there with you, or one of your team managers, etc. There's definitely a lot of talk. I myself quite like the chat during the race. I know some drivers do like to be quiet, but for instance, in the previous race in Pro, I was engineering with teammate Tom Aldermenger, then also another guy I was engineering in the academy race before that, and having just that talk there, talking about the gaps behind you, talking of the tyres around you, the push-to-pass strategies, etc. That sort of thing is definitely very important to have that bit of reassurance for the driver. If you're just there on your own, you can start like overthinking and panicking, and then generally your driver performance goes down from that.
It can be very helpful. There are, of course, people who really hate being chatted to in the race, and they'd really rather be left alone. But yeah, I certainly wasn't one of those during my short time driving. But there we are. No plans to drive this season, Cam, in FSR. I know you did a few races last season.
Yeah, obviously I plan to do pro, but yeah, not at the rig for the first couple of races of the season, unfortunately. So I should be there in round 3 onwards in pro. Obviously missing a couple of rounds, not really going to be fighting for any of the top points, but let's see how that one goes. Definitely in general I don't really drive too much anymore, but definitely pro is something that I'd like to at least have some fun in for a couple of races here and there. So yeah, you'll definitely see me out on the track.
I miss the days when we were cheering on Cam to at least get a solitary point back in 2021, because the top 10 only.
Oh, you'll be doing that this year as well.
Well, I suppose so, because not everyone gets points. My mind's still in last year when we were, of course, having 20 drivers on the grid and 20 people getting points as well in the World Championship anyway. But surely you'd be able to manage a top 20, Cam. It can't be that difficult. But
yeah, I think there was 23. I know there was a few drivers, including myself, missing off the grid. I think there should be about 27 if everyone showed up. So there's a possibility I might just finish outside of it. But looking at the pace that we had in the car with Tom, we definitely should have some opportunities for points up there. I definitely like this 20. I think you're a bigger fan. We were just mentioning this as well about the 20 points, 20 positions getting points. So that obviously opens the opportunities for people like me.
I wasn't a big fan of it, I've got to be honest, when there was 20 drivers in the race. I didn't like it when everybody got points, but now that we've got 30, I think 20 people getting points is a fantastic idea. And yeah, I'm not as big of a criticiser of the point system as Lewis was in the previous season. The World Championship. He didn't like the point system at all, really, but it produced our first championship finale for quite some time, so I don't think we can have any complaints at all. We've just about gotten in, by the way, to the next to the server and the session again, so we are going to cross forward to the formation lap once again for the second time. Jake Dennehan is going to pull away from the front of the field and get us underway for the 2023 World Championship. Come back around, put ourselves back onto the grid again, and hopefully this time be able to get underway. I've got to say, it's become a bit of an iconic opening to a season now. Australia's fallen by the wayside in terms of Formula 1 World Championships in real life. It's now handed over to Bahrain, and the first braking zone of the World Championship season is often quite a precarious one with just how narrow it is, and with even more cars than ever before. We are going to have some people breathing in quite sharply in towards turn 1.
Yeah, especially with this new regen on the rear axle as well, then, and the cold brakes potentially on the first lap. There might be a few rear lockers coming into that first corner, so hopefully everyone is keeping it calm. So yeah, we of course don't want the action as such when it comes to that sort of thing. Want some nice clean racing, and I wonder, is this going to continue for Jake Dennehan? Is he going to be on those hard tyres, or is the graphic going to be a little bit cheating us with that one? But if that's hard tyres from pole position, he's brave and he knows he's got pace in that car.
Does look like it's hard from Dennehan, but I think the 8 drivers behind him have all gone for the mediums. That's starting from Braxuk down to Alex Siebel down in 9th. I believe Adam Maguire might have gone for the hard tyres as well. We'll wait and see on what we get out of that when we actually get the race properly underway. But do you think Dennehan's going to really get sort of swallowed alive early on in this race in terms of the tyres he's chosen to go for here? Is it really going to be that bad for him?
Or what he's thinking is get the lead and then effectively hold up the people behind him, because they won't be able to make progress and go through him. However, overtaking is fairly easy as such if you want to start using loads of the hybrid system, so it's definitely that balancing out the cars behind have to do. But I just reckon it's because he's confident. I think he knows he's got pace, and he knows that he can at least stay towards the front in that opening stint. But this is going to be obviously a longer stint as well, so everyone behind him is going to get an undercut. So definitely interesting strategies going on there at the NX 2017.
Jake Dennehan has got plenty of reasons to be confident. Pre-season champion for 2023. And pole position for the first time in the World Championship as well. Drivers pull out onto the grid and into their grid slots. There's about a half more than we usually see. Ending out with Cosmo Pisuto rounding out the grid here, the 30th and final driver to get himself onto the grid here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Lights will come on very shortly at the Sakhir circuit. We're ready to get underway for the 2023 VCO World Championship. Jake Dennehan from the front gets a decent start, but it's Jonas Braxuk on his inside. He's cut across immediately. Dennehan will take the inside line in towards turn 1. Braxuk on the outside. They'll file in towards turns 1 and 2. It's free wide for 5th place at the moment between the two virtual drivers by TX3. Teammates there with involved at the moment. Mrocek trying to get there in that 7th position. Oh, there's contact between the teammates as well. Up towards turn 4 they'll go. Certain contact, and the front wing's off for one of them and the rear wing for the other. It's a disaster for virtual drivers by TX3.
They had such a good qualifying, but unfortunately they've come a cropper to that one as all the drivers try and follow through, and there's a bit of carnage as everyone's trying to avoid the cars going slow with no wings, and hopefully that works out to be good with everyone. I think marker boards and everything flying all over the track. Absolute carnage here.
It's absolute carnage. Can't believe, oh dear, and more contact as well, down towards turn 10. Everybody getting into contact, one of the banners flying like you wouldn't believe. Virtual drivers by TX3 with 2 drivers inside the top 10 in qualifying. They've had a complete disaster in the early moment of this race. It was Mark Slutter who got into the back of his teammate there, Bock, and they've unfortunately made contact, and both of them with damage. Now everybody's still trying to file their way through on them, but out front it's Jake Dennehan who will lead the first lap of the World Championship. Braxuk, Grankvist, Simoncic, Mrocek, your top 5.
And the 2 Ferraris have had great starts there, 7th and 9th place. But look at that defence from Jake Dennehan. He knows that he's got Braxuk coming his way, and also Grankvist. They got little bit of a gap actually in this top three. Is any moves going to be made in towards turn one? No, looks like they're going to be sitting there nicely for now. No crazy dives, and that might just be a precedent to how this the first couple of laps is going to go. Everyone's going to be getting themselves into some nice places.
Well, Colin Sport making his way down the inside as well of Shell by the looks of things through turns 1 and 2. Can't do it. Oh, he gets up on the curb as well. And Demian Scrovron's going to be alongside him for 17th position at the moment. He'll use a bit of DRS as well up towards turn 4. He'll slot in. Round the outside goes Mika Hakimi as well, round the outside for Arnage and Brabham. He will go through up into 18th. So Scrovron, in trying to gain one place, ends up going backwards in another in the middle sector right now. It's in the midfield where the real side-by-side is. You're absolutely right. The top 10 or so have sorted themselves out single file.
And that is so difficult for some of these drivers to try and, because everyone's so close together, it's so difficult to find your place on the track, because if you don't brake late enough, then the car behind you is going to be obviously getting an easy overtake. So we go a little bit further back here, towards further back of the train. Prosciutto, who was last in qualifying, is now, of course, in there 28th with a couple of drivers going into the pit lane, as they've got one of the valet cars, and Super Venturi up ahead of them as well. So these drivers will slowly start to fall back if they're not careful, and once you lose that main train, it's going to be very difficult for these drivers to get points today.
Yannick Bock already a DNF, I'm afraid, from this race. He's lost his rear wing and is already gone for virtual drivers by TX3. Here's Janis Braksok in the slipstream of Jake Dennehan. He'll pull to the inside and towards turn 1, and it's an easy move, easy as you like. Janis Braksok to the lead, and Jake Dennehan offers no resistance.
Oh, yeah, I think Dennehan just needs to not waste too much time. He's going to be overtaken by a lot of these medium runners, so there's no point fighting it too hard at this moment in time. But now does Braksok start to pull away? Does he start to use a bit of a hybrid system and waste a bit of that battery, try and keep that lead as we go a bit further back into the middle of the pack? 3 wide, almost there on the exit of turn 3. Coming up towards the hill, we've got Roy Blue on the inside there of one of the burst cars. I think that is Hoya, actually, or Scovron, I should say, round the outside of Matt Williams, side by side. Scovron manages to hold on. There's some nice battles further back here as they try and work their way up the field slowly.
It's going to be a long road to recovery for Burst Esports. That's Hakimi down the inside of Shell, who will do the over and under very nicely so as well. Down the bottom of the hill there at turn 8. They'll run up the hill now towards turn 10 again in that side-by-side battle. Single file very much so inside the top 13 or so, where we've got one long line really. And as you say, it might well be all about staying in this line for the moment. 4 of the 13 are on hard tyres at the moment. Jake Dennehan, of course, being one of them. Already, he is losing a bit of speed and has Jan Gregquist not too far behind. Joni Simoncic sitting there doing his own thing in 4th place with his teammate David Mocek just in behind as well. Dennis Jordan involved, Petr Burliak there 9th and 10th, Alex Siebel 7th at the moment. Those are the top contenders from last year at least, all involved. Here comes Jan Gregquist on the front straight. He's down the inside as well. Dennehan is getting overtaken again. This may well be the story of the first 20 laps or so.
Yeah, I reckon so, as Gregquist there doesn't want to let Braksok get away up the road, and they see a little bit of a gap forming because Dennehan is going to be losing those extra couple of tenths lap. But what we do know is, of course, at some point the mediums are going to start dropping off more compared to the hards. The hards will have a lot more endurance to them. So at some point, maybe after that 10 lap 15, there is going to be that crossover period. For Dennehan, it's definitely an interesting strategy, but we'll have to see. He obviously playing the long game today. He's looking, the like 40 plus onwards to see what his track position is going to be.
Towards turn 10 again, Dennehan with a big job on his hands here. Janis Braksok leading an FSR VCO World Championship race once again. But how many times have we said that, Cam, and it's not come out for him? Honestly, I know we're supposed to be neutral, but I really hope today is his day.
I agree with that one. It's been a long time coming for Braksok. He's been at the front of so many races over the last few years. He's been around, I think it's his 4th season now, maybe in the World Championship as well. He's been around quite a while. And that needs to, of course, try and get the top spot, which he hasn't been able to do. He's been there so many times. I think the difficult thing for him today is just the fact of there's so many more drivers on the field this year. Any of these drivers in the top 10 can start to have a bit of a think for the leaders. His teammate Hakimi there, a bit further back, is having a bit of a side-by-side battle. He's actually gone backwards a few places.
Yeah, Jan Grakvist is coming for the lead though, down here towards turn 1. Braxock has been overtaken by the looks of things, and that was quite easy in the end actually. Another big DRS pass. It's a little bit worrying, I suppose, Cam, that there's not actually been too much side-by-side battling towards turn 1. Do you think that's a product of the hybrid / DRS kind of effect, or do you think that's just because we're in the early stage of the race?
Yes, because if you want to make the overtake, of course you can just dump the push past the hybrid deployment for maybe 5-10 seconds and easily make the overtake, and then you'll be absolutely fine. So there's nothing to worry about from that point of view. And of course, if the car ahead, the defending car, realizes they're going to get overtaken, they're not going to be defending. But who is defending is one of the visceral cars. There's Hakimi's going all the way around the outside there. Mergley's trying to hold on. He's been dropping back a few places, struggling maybe with the pace in that car. He's been dropping back 4 places already. And unfortunately, Mergley can't quite find a way past into turn 4.
That is Stavros Mudzadis in 25th, just in behind them as well. This is a long way further down, back in the pack, but it's a good side-by-side battling between the two of them, up towards turn 4. Pretty aggressive between them as well. I don't think Mergley's got the run out of turn 10 to really have a go up towards 11. Back up towards the front, and his teammate Darius Andre, who's under a bit of pressure from Carlos Martin at the moment, just up in front of his substitutes. These are 2 drivers on the hard tyres at the moment, and you can see the pace differential. They're struggling to hang on to the group.
Yeah, they are, and it's going to be difficult with that, because if they want to get back into the DRS train, they're going to have to burn a lot of the battery, but then that also has a negative effect later on in the race. So it's one of these very interesting balancing acts during this race that you're going to see, and that's why you're going to have this train up in the top 10 that we're seeing on the screens now. These drivers are going to be trying to, at this point in the race, save their battery. They're going to be saving their tyres to attack later in the race. This isn't a race where you want to be just battling all the time, getting to the front, being super aggressive. You've got to be tactical and strategic to get to the end in the best way possible.
Does it show, though, that Jake Dennehan is doing a really good job at the moment to stay with these guys? Because clearly Martin and Andre are struggling to hold on to this group. Dennehan at the moment is holding very good pace, as is, to be fair, Adam Maguire, who we were just focusing in on there for R8G. This is a bit of side-by-side. Mergley's going backwards a little bit so far in this one. He's overtaken by Jukka-Pekka Laulu now for 25th position. But I think it says a lot about Dennehan, the fact that he's on the hard tyres there and staying with the group while others are struggling to do so.
Yeah, it just shows the pace that he's got, and of course when you have that pace advantage, then the differential between yourself on the hards and the others on the mediums is less, and therefore you can keep up in DRS very easily. We do have obviously 3 DRS zones around here, and a 4th straight, the straight that they're coming down now. So there's a lot of slipstream and a lot of help in hand from the aero side of things, but you can still lose that DRS, the 1 second gap for the DRS, if you are too slow. So you definitely need to be keeping up with that. And at this moment in time, it seems to have stabilised a bit towards the front. I was expecting maybe Braxock to come back, but he's just pulling along Dennehan, and Simoncic and his teammate Mrocek are sitting in there pretty behind too.
The first battle really further down between Latu and Jordan. They were pretty close, but no changes between the two as far as I could tell. It was Jordan getting very close to the Race Clutch car. I have a feeling we're going to have real problems this season telling apart the Ferraris from the Race Clutch cars. Side by side between Valeriano and one of the others getting down the inside for 21st. That's Pambukas, Kostos Pambukas in the 21st position for the lower end of the points. It does show that in this season that, well, last season everybody who started the race got points. This season you really will have to fight for them, because these two at the moment aren't going to get anything.
Yeah, and this is important for people like Valle, their debut in the VCO World Championship, and they definitely need to try and get their name on the board. They've been very good in the lower championships over the last few years. They've been working their way up, and now with a solid driver as well, Valeriano, who's been in the World Championship quite a few times, and of course being the second division champion as well back in 2018, I believe it was. So definitely a top-level driver that they're signing, but they need to be getting those points on the board to prove that out on track.
Yoni Simitic, 3-time FSR World Champion, sitting there in 4th place, just waiting for his opportunity to strike, while Braxock and Grakvist were eager to get through on Jake Dennehan on the hards. Simoncic has been eager to sit here and wait in behind. Out of the final corner they'll come. We go on board with him as we complete lap 7. He's not really close enough to make a move down here in towards turn 1, you wouldn't imagine. Everybody just concertinas up together in towards turn 1. Simoncic, I think, feels happy to sit here at the moment. He knows that his big moment is coming up a little bit later, and right now he doesn't need to be leading with 50 laps to go.
And especially when he's got his teammate behind him, he knows he's got that little bit of a barrier. And also Adam Maguire doesn't seem to be doing anything too aggressive, so he knows he's got no real attack from behind, so he's just going to be sitting there. I would assume Mrocek and then also Denahan as well involved. I reckon they're just saving a lot of battery at this point. So when we get to the in-laps and out-laps of the pit stops, look for some really fast lap times coming in. Maybe being a second, 2 seconds lap faster with a lot of hybrid being deployed. So yeah, he's absolutely comfortable in that position. But someone who maybe isn't quite so comfortable, Liam Duval, starting to drop off there in that 13th place. Really can't keep a hold of Carlos Martin ahead of him.
Oh. No, he really can't. So those are the leaders up there. This is the second group on the road, if you like. 13th on backwards. Liam Duval, who had a fantastic opener, if you remember, from Imola back in the 2022 World Championship. I think he was second at the end of the day. Unfortunately, he wasn't really able to replicate that through any of the other races last season. At the moment, he's 13th, just ahead of Darius Andre for VCO Esports. Then it's Sander Callas, ahead of the reigning World Champion Colin Sport. Stood there in 16th. At the moment on the medium tyres as well. You'd expect him to be able to make a little bit more progress early on than that. It's getting pretty close though out front. Jake Denahan pretty close to Jonas Braxton. They might well both be using hybrid here to just stay in front of one another. And they'll stay where they are into turn one. Here comes Lottiu on Siebel. Round the outside of the runner-up last season goes the race driver, and he will get the inside at 2. He will get the position.
Otherwise you're just going to be eating into that battery. So it really is a massive balancing act, and that's why you're always so tentative to go on the button, because you don't want to ruin your chances later on in the race. But at the end of the day, if there's an opportunity to get a position ahead, that is what you need to look at. Looks like Simoncic has been able to keep it though this time around, managed to get it back, of course, with the double DRS from the first straight, then also here up towards turn 4.
Yeah, it is indeed the case. Lap 10 at the moment. So down towards turn 10, they'll go, the top 3, the leaders anyway, and down through turn 10 as well. Krakvist with nearly 3/4 of a second at the moment ahead of the rest. Braxuk, Denahan, Simoncic and Mrocek in the top 10. The top 11, in the top 5. The top 11 are still remaining in the DRS train, still remaining in touch right now. Waiting on those first pit stops, really. Everybody's calmed down now after the opening moments of the race. Now waiting for those first round of pit stops.
I think we're going to be waiting about another 5 laps. I reckon around lap 15 is going to be the lap that we're going to start to see those pit stops come in for a 2-stop strategy. I haven't completely ruled out a 3-stop, but I do reckon people are going to like the idea of sitting in a train in a more controlled environment than having to push so much on a 3-stop. But don't rule out a 3-stop for people pitting in the next few laps. But yeah, definitely I reckon about lap 15, 16 or so, at least for the medium runners, they will be coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, so lap 11 out there at the moment. Still this one long line. And it really is a line. No side by side up towards turn 4 on this occasion. A little bit further back, Sander Callas now has worked his way to the front of this group as Liam Duval has been able to get himself away from it. 13th, Callas is now in front of Andre, who's becoming a bit of a cork in the bottle, and Christoph Schell right now for the Race Clutch team, only in the 17th place, just behind Spork. And interesting to note that Shirley's even in this race, Cam, was obviously a reserve driver, interesting to note that Shirley's even in this race, Cam, was obviously a reserve driver, or is a reserve driver, I should say. Having won the pro race, he's in for this one as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him coming full-time into the World Championship. He's obviously doing a pretty decent job here, well in the mix, and won the pro race pretty convincingly a bit earlier, so maybe his level is more towards the WC. So yeah, maybe we'll see him. He's replacing Robin Panzer, who of course was at Burst last year, has moved to Race Clutch / Alpine over the winter. And he actually is the one who basically made the car as well, made the physics that we're using today. So had a lot of input there, but isn't getting the rewards because he isn't on the track today.
Over the line again, and here comes Jake Dennehan, the hot tyre runner, now starting to stretch his legs as maybe the race is starting to come to him a little bit. Down the inside and towards turn 1, and he's up to second place, very close to Granqvist as well. Is he going to try and take this pole position and take this race lead back again? Here we go, Dennehan on the inside as Simoncic does the same to Braxok. Down the inside he goes, Dennehan to the lead, and Simoncic is through as well. Jonas Braxok goes from second to fourth in a matter of corners.
You know, that's Simoncic reading the race. He knows the gap's going to be opening up ahead. He needs to be filling them, and the first one was getting past Braxok. So he is trying to follow Dennehan through as well. I'm sure he knows he's on the hard tyres, but definitely doesn't want to let that gap get away too far. I reckon Dennehan, he's seen that this is go time as well. They've been sitting pretty for the last 5 laps or so, pretty stable, but now he's going to be trying to use some push to pass that he saved. He's going to be trying to get that gap, get out of DRS, and try and pull away. Now that the mediums have worn off, he should have slightly better performance on those hard tyres.
Should do. And it's the race just coming to him at the moment, but you're absolutely right. Simoncic reading the race perfectly, knows when to strike. He knows the moment to try and make an overtake. That was it right there. And he's just beginning to move his way up the order into third place. David Mocek coming under a bit more pressure from Adam Maguire here as well. You can see another one of the hard tyre runners starting to make an impression in the RHE car. That was not a great line through the final turn for David Mocek, and now there's going to be all sorts of weaving on the straight. The race is really on again now after a few moments of calm. Slipstream and DRS down the home straight for Maguire. Is he close enough in towards turn 1? No, he's not quite, but you can start to see it now on a couple of the hard tyre runners. The mediums may be going away from some of these guys.
Yeah, definitely, and Dennehan's trying to stretch this battle out. He's trying to get out of that DRS range, which I think he might be able to do. But Spork as well, he's trying to defend here from a Shell coming in towards turn 1, hasn't been able to move. But in the background as well, one of the Royal Blue cars there, diving up the inside. David Skogron up there through turn 2. It couldn't quite make it work, but Williams, that is trying to make some progress. These two have been battling for quite a while. Coming up towards turn 4, is Williams going to be diving up the inside? No, not quite enough, but definitely giving us some entertainment there in turn 1.
On board with the Royal Blue Racing driver now in his fight for 18th position. Only 3 points on the line here. Every one of them is going to count by the end of 2023. Down towards turn 8 they'll go in this group that's going down from 15th place now. Sander Kallis been able to get himself away from it. Darius Updrake, the cork in the bottle. Down the inside, Jonas Braxok's got problems. Down from 4th place, it's even further for Jonas Braxok. He's down to 7th, not sure what happened there, Cam.
I wonder if his tyres are just gone and everyone is starting to come past him. I should say, cork in the bottle moment. He's now got 2 Ferraris and Cedric Jordan coming past. I reckon he might be coming into the pit lane this lap, but this is a little bit early as well. I wonder if he's just struggling there on the tyres, or does he have further issues? He's slow on the straights.
He is slow on the straights. This is very bizarre. The Arnaz Brabham Esports driver, and he might well be in pit lane here, is he? Oh, well, nearly. Out to the right-hand side goes Petter Perliak. Now will come Zoops as well, but Braxok is slow on the straights as well. This is very, very bizarre and heartbreaking once again as Jonas Braxok's search for a Formula SimRacing World Championship race win will go on. I think he'll be our second retirement of the day.
Yeah, he was definitely having some issues there. Colin Spork actually coming into the pit lane in the background as well. So he is one of the earlier stops. This is definitely leaning towards a double hards strategy later on in the race. As Braxok is still there, his teammate though, trying to battle on the Valet cars. Valeriano, that is, in towards turn 1 and coming through 2 and 3 now up the hill, getting towards that DRS zone. Isn't quite close enough, I don't think, to make the overtake, but they are definitely trying to fight it. And in the background, you can still see Braxok's car there, so I wonder if he's trying to figure it out and he doesn't want to DNF just yet.
Well, clearly wants to carry on here, but it might not be much use to him, I'm afraid. Real shame to see him out of the race at this moment. Jake Dennehan right away has now taken the lead of this race. Jan Granqvist second, ahead of Jone Simoncic, then David Mocek. I'm getting them mixed up now as well. Further down, these are the battles that are happening just behind Mika Hakimi for 21st. Yuka Lalu and Martin Mergley fighting down in these positions. Early stop from Spork though. I wonder whether he's just trying to get himself out of traffic here and whether that's really going to work for him, because I think he's found himself... Oh no, sorry, he has found himself in a little bit of clean air, but it's not exactly that far up the road until he'll start to reach Danny van der Neet.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be tricky for him as well, and he's going to have a couple of longer stints towards the end than he maybe would have wanted. Back towards the front though, we're starting to see some pit stops I should say. Granqvist coming in, that leads Dennehan Simicic and Rocek up in the top three. Adam Maguire following them through as well. So this really starting to be go time with some pit stops. And as you say, where you fall out in traffic, where you're going to use your push to pass on your in and out laps is really going to affect the undercut or the overcut strategy today.
So 3 drivers in that time, and 2 of them from Crown Effect. Out, side by side, further back between Hakimi and Mergli again in towards turn 1. And round the outside for the Visceral driver. It's a nice move and a nice battle between the two as well. Lalu's going to get caught up in it if he's not careful. Mergli will have to go defensive again from Hakimi on the outside line. He breaks late. There's fierce battling between these two through turn 4. Big slide. And Mergli will hold on to the plate. Not so far behind the men. Some of the drivers who pitted under that last few moments have now come out. Zoltz Dukes is going to find himself in quite a lot of traffic. He's in 22nd at the moment.
And this is the issue with the bigger field we have this year in the VCO World Championship. You don't, when you pit in the first stint of the race, you don't just go into clean air behind the train of everyone. You are in the train, and this is really going to affect the pace difference. But of course, we are around the pit stop window, so everyone else still out. They will also come into this train, and this could be a very interesting period for some of these midfield drivers who are still out on those hard compound tyres. They're going to be still out for another 5 laps or so, so that's going to be slightly more difficult for them to try and gain time. As we've seen someone else come into the pit lane, one of the burst cars there, Mocek coming into the pit lane as well as Lartadus. So definitely this is the window starting to open and drivers starting to try and find it as we get, of course, I thought it was Jake Dennehan and Simicic, but no, it wasn't. It's Hoyer and Van Bucas coming towards pit lane.
There's still 1.1 seconds between 1 and 2 at the moment. I think it's very ominous for the rest of the field, though, how long Simicic has stayed out here and what pace he's still driving with here at this moment. Last lap was a 34.2, which was the best lap of anybody on that last lap. He's on the mediums. Clearly, when he was sat there in 4th place, he was just holding something back, so that now that the hards are supposed to have an advantage, he's really not letting them have that, although the gap just extending by 3 or 4 tenths on this lap.
Yeah, you are correct with what you can do there. So if you save your deployment in the early parts of your stint, when your tyres start to wear, you can then offset that, the slowing of the tyres into the increase in your engine power. So you can, offset the lap time difference a little bit there. It is going to be a struggle, though, because Dennehan is going to have still plenty of tyres left. But the thing for Simicic is he needs to go now. They're starting to pull away quite a bit from those Ferraris, about 5 seconds away already. These gaps are going to start forming, and if Simicic doesn't go, Dennehan is going to have a really comfortable lead after the pit stop.
See if it will be this lap when Simicic comes in. We've also got Siebel, Jordan and Burley out here, all still out on the mediums. They're running in a train here. It's Ferrari Alpine, or 5th and 6th, and Simicic will carry on. The 2 Ferraris will come in. Oh no, one of them will. Siebel will make the pit stop. I don't believe there'd be double stacking in that case, Cam, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I believe they can pit at the same time, but it's also we see this quite a lot over the years as well. Alex and Dennis, they've been teammates for so long. They like to do things differently. As coming back further in the pack, Matt Williams starting to make some moves. Darius Andre is on his list, and he's already got past way before the braking zone. About halfway down the straight, is a little bit further back. Is that Colin Spork actually trying to get through? Oh no, so actually it's Lalu, trying to get through up there, following through some overtakes as well. So definitely this is go time. The action went quiet for sort of 5-10 laps, and now the last 5 laps have been all overtakes.
Well, this is important because Grankvist pitted from the lead, and now he's having to work his way through traffic, which could be costing him versus the likes of Dennehan and Simicic at the front of the field right now. We're approaching 1/3 distance here in the Bahrain Grand Prix, the opening round of the FSR VCO World Championship here in 2023. Darius Andre has been put through it so far, I would say. He's up to 10th now, but he's been overtaken almost terminally here in this race. Grankvist and Van Bucas on next. Davin Mocek just in behind as well, as we're waiting for some of the leaders still to come in. Siebel came out there just ahead of Lartu, by the way, further down. It seems that the longer you can go on the opening set of tyres, the better it is for you. Grankvist heads down the inside. He's up to 10th now on the hard compounded tyres, but he will have cost himself some time in this battle.
Yeah, I've just realised why Dennehan's pushing so much. The pit delta is around 23 seconds, give or take. That is exactly the battle or the gap that they're trying to get to Grankvist to try and stay out in the leaders. Jerne comes in, as well as Jordan, also Burlak as well. So it seems like lap 17, that would have been the end of lap 17, is the gap for the lap count, I should say. Dennehan continues, of course, being on the hard compound tyres, and I think what he's trying to do is trying to get away from all this traffic that they're going to be pitting into.
Is Grankvist down the inside of Matthew Williams down in towards turn 1. He's in front of Simoncic as well. Simoncic will be behind Mocek by the looks of things. Side by side between Andre and Van Vukas just in behind. They sort themselves out. Van Vukas prevails. Mocek's in front of them. Simoncic is just behind them there, you can see. Then it's Lartiu and Alex Siebel. Dennis Jordan's battling with Giordano Valeriano by the looks of it for 14th place at the moment. That's important though in terms of strategy. There he goes up the inside. So they've roughly stayed in the same positions, but Burlak seems to have lost a bit of time compared to the two Ferraris.
Yeah, Grankvist is definitely going to keep the net race lead with that undercut. Mocek will be in second place. I think Denihan's going to come out between Mocek and Simoncic along with Van Vukas and Andre. So these lap traffic cars are going to have a big play in, of course, the outcome of this middle part of the race, as we are well into the pit stop window. As, of course, the DRS comes down this back straightaway as well for the drivers to try and get themselves up towards the car ahead. But we're seeing some splitting up there of the pack. We're already seeing some drivers losing DRS, like Andre on Simoncic. Didn't have the DRS that time around.
There's the Super Venturi of Jan Grankvist, likely in the net race lead here on the hard compounded tyres. Simoncic's quite a long way behind him, actually. Mocek is second of those who have pitted so far. We're not likely to see any pit stops from the front for a little bit of time now, because the top 5 all started on the hard compounded tyres and they're still out there on those hards as well. Matthew Williams very much embedded within some of these battles here, having started on the hards. Same story for Van Vukas and Andre. Then you've got to have to go down all the way to Yukameka Lalu to find the next car. Not really involved with the leaders too much, but these guys certainly are. This is also another problem for Simoncic now. The traffic he's coming across, it's side by side a little bit further up. Grankvist makes up another place on Scheller, and here comes Simoncic down the inside Van Vukas.
Yeah, it's not going to be too difficult with the tyre advantage he will have, but it's going to definitely be some wasted hybrid that he is not going to want. And we know, especially Matt Williams up ahead, he does fight pretty hard himself. And of course he would, because it's for position, but definitely an aggressive driver that Simoncic needs to negotiate. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst strategy that Simoncic did. He has got a couple of laps extra in the bank for later on in the race, but he does need to get back up to his teammate and then try and let Grankvist not get away too much. But of course, that is easier said than done. Up the back straight here, loads of push to pass being used, and Simoncic getting past, as I said, trying to follow his teammate Mocek up the road.
A couple of seconds to find there, or a second and a half or so, but he's managed to get up to 8th place for the moment. That puts him third of those who have pitted so far. A little bit further down, Darius Andre is still being overtaken by drivers. One of the Ferraris has gotten through now with Alex Siebel. Another one of Dennis Jordan probably going to get through soon. By the way, these 4 cars indeed represent 3 different teams. It's Rage Clutch in front, followed by the Ferrari of Siebel. Then there's another Ferrari in there. Then there's a Visceral Esports car. We've got more black and red than anyone would like, I would imagine, on this grid here this season, as Adam Maguire comes into the pit lane Ferrari G, along with Matthew Williams, the first of the hard tyre runners making their first stops of the afternoon.
Yeah, and that's a little bit. I was expecting a couple more laps as we've seen Denihan stay out, and that is Adam Maguire getting right involved there. Is that Dennis Jordan in towards turn 2? Bit of contact, I think, between them. So Siebel has jumped Adam Maguire, and also Lartanu is up involved there as well. So definitely some time lost there for Adam Maguire, but he does have quite a few laps in hand. As a little bit further in the background, we've seen Darius Andre trying to battle now Petter Burlag. Side by side, the two come through in towards turn 5 and 6, and Burlag makes that move.
So up to 13th place for Burlak, and here comes Zooks as well down the inside. It's a big dive in towards turn 8, and Darius Andre is going to be pushed out wide and won't have the exit to comprehend either. His tyres looking very, very second hand now in the opening moments of this race. Here is Jurne Simoncic making moves once again. He'll go through on the pro race winner from Bahrain at Shell, and up to 6th place for Simoncic, still giving chase to his teammate. These guys on hards now, though, are really starting to slip and slide and struggle as well.
Yeah, and someone I just noticed who did get back on track is Jans Brakshock. He's just coming up the straight between turns 3 and 4 now, so he did continue, hasn't DNF, so just the one DNF so far of Yannick Bock. But good to see that Brakshock is at least continuing, but he's going to really struggle to get some top points today, as we are seeing. Is that one who in the pit lane? Oh, that is a Carlos Martin coming into the pit lane, so that leaves Liam Duval out with Jake Denihan as well. So maybe, yeah, Duval struggling a little bit early on, but going long on these hard tyres.
Yeah, Carlos Martins in along with Shell and Van Vukas as well, who will get out the way of the leaders. Still waiting for the top 2 to come in, but the rest of those inside the top 10 have already been into pit lane. It's been a decent opening stint here from Jake Dennehan, but he is going to have to suffer with the fact that he'll be right in the midst of traffic when he returns to the circuit once again. Grankvist is likely going to be in the lead, and I think the 2 burst cars may well be in front of him as well, as Adam Maguire makes his way down the inside of Lartieu up to 6th place.
Yeah, just showing how some fresher tyres is going to be helping everyone in the top 19 is on the hard compound tyres. They really are going to be the race tyre of choice today. But it does seem that even just like a 2, 3, even a 5 lap difference is making a big effect with the grip. So the drop-off seems to be, at least in the initial laps, seems to be quite high. So that means, of course, the undercut is going to work pretty well. But then at some point, you'll start to fall back from the drivers who pit. The pit delta is around 23 seconds or so. So as it stands, Dennehan will come out behind Simoncic, but in front of Maguire. So Dennehan will be dropping from 1st to what will eventually be 4th place once Deval pits as well. So going long is certainly losing time, but it just depends if they can get that back later.
Exactly, that's going to be the key. Can you get that time back a little bit later on? Oh, we're going to have to wait for the 57 laps to elapse, and we'll find out. RAG Esports with their second stop of the day, and this time it's Liam Deval. Comes in from 2nd place, which is where he finished in the opening round of the 2022 season. He'll drop outside the top 10 as a result. It was a moment of madness really, Cam, those last 5 laps or so, but we've certainly settled in now. Just waiting for Dennehan to pit, and then we'll really have a view as to where we are in this race. But I'd expect a little bit of single file here for the next few moments.
Yeah, it seems to be that in the first part of the stint, you have a little bit of a battle. You get into your single file train, then you sit there for 10 laps and you work out what you're going to do, and then there's another 5-lap dash around the pit lane sequence, and then we sort of repeat that. So definitely it's because around the pit stops you're going to use a lot of your hybrid system. You're going to be burning up the tyres that little bit more, but when you get to that 10-lap stint in the middle, you have to be controlled and really trying to focus on the long plan. We're seeing already on lap 22 here at the first race of the season, 57 laps on the board today. Mergley's been in the wars already and the battle so far. He's now got Liam Deval on fresh tyres right behind him.
Board with the RHG driver. Nobody inside the top 19 on hards here, on mediums, excuse me. Matthew Williams, the first of them at the moment. Liam Deval, though, with newer tyres. He's going to use that on Martin Mergley here to get up into 16th position. Jake Dennehan is in from the lead of the race then. Jan Grankvist should take over by about a second or so, but we'll wait and see where Dennehan slots in. There is the Super Venturi, followed by the 2 Burst Esports cars down the home straight here in Bahrain. Jan Grankvist to the lead here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Jake Dennehan off the podium. He'll hope he's in front of that battle for 5th place as well. There he goes. He will be in front of them. It's side by side between Lartieu and Jordan by the looks of things, with Siebel involved as well. The red cars are swarming on one another. Siebel will hold on to 6th place ahead of Lartieu, and then Dennis Jordan.
Yeah, they got themselves back into the order that they were at the sort of the middle part of that first stint, but I definitely think that Jordan is going to be trying to work his way up. He sat there in that sort of 8th, 9th, 10th position all race, but hasn't really made any efforts to get forward, it seems. But maybe now this is the time, the part of the race where he's going to attack. Is especially good knowing that he's got his teammate just up ahead as well. So if he can get past Lartieu, he'll be able to, of course, use his teammate and work his way forward. But such interesting strategies coming here at Bahrain. Of course, Dennehan lost 5 seconds effectively to Grankvist from doing this, but is he going to gain that 5 seconds back? If he does another 22-lap stint, that's 44, so he'll only have 13 laps at the end as well, meaning he might even be able to go on the soft tyres. So something I wasn't really expecting, but definitely, strategy games, and that's what we like to see.
Even if he's not going to go for soft tyres at the end of this race here, Cam, what do you think is kind of a margin that he needs to be at to try and overhaul those out in front? Because Dennehan obviously qualified on the pole position a little bit earlier on. He's done all right to get up into 4th place right now, but now he's got 5 seconds to those leaders right now, and he will have that pace advantage later on. So just how close does he need to stay really to get involved with these leading 3?
I mean, he's going to have a pace advantage now. Grankvist is already on 9-lap old tyres, which is basically almost half a stint. So he's going to have a huge pace advantage. He'll be able to catch up, I think, to Simoncic. I think the real advantage for him is going to come in that third stint, because even if he doesn't choose softs and he goes to mediums, he'll be on low fuel on mediums, doing shorter stint than anyone else, who's going to have loads of pace. So definitely the long game going for Denahan today. He doesn't want to lead from the front, or maybe he knows he can't, so he needs to play some extra cards. And the only difficult thing for him is he's got no teammates, no friends up there, like we see with the two Ferraris, the two bursts, etc. He's going to have to try and do it on his own.
Let's see, 24 laps in, just about into the FSR World Championship season. Still a very long way to go. We're on board with Simoncic just hanging on to the DRS. David Mocek just in front. I think these two actually are quite a good example of actually good kind of, how can I say, a good indication of where the undercut is actually in this race. Mocek did pit a little bit earlier than Simoncic and jumped him quite considerably as well. Simoncic has been able to stay with him as a result, but staying out longer certainly hurt him. I do wonder whether Simoncic intends to go on the mediums again at the end of this race.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to see, but what I'm interested in now is the lap times that we're seeing. Alex Siebel on the last lap, a 33.0, fastest lap of the race. Jake Denahan just crossed the line, did a 33.1. So he's really starting to push as well with Siebel. The issue for Siebel is that he's dropped off quite a bit from Adam Maguire, who's also on some pretty good pace. So definitely loads of drivers starting to push now in this race. Denahan's already caught 2 of the 6 seconds that he needs. So I don't think he's really going to have any sort of issue catching up that gap. It just depends how he wants to go about overtaking 3 cars.
And 2 Ferraris now 6th and 7th here. Tom Lodge, you've been displaced from that position now, but Burlak not too far away. Zux joins them inside the top 10, and a bit further down, see everybody else inside the top 20 on the left hand side of your screen. Still only 1 retirement from this race, and that is indeed Yannick Bock after contact between the 2 virtual drivers by TX3 teammates coming up towards turn 4 on the very opening lap of the season. It's Christoph Schell back in 18th position with Van Vukas not far behind. Towards turn 8 they've plunged up the hill and then back towards 10 again. Race very much settling in as we approach the half distance mark in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Matthew Williams just up in front of these guys, by the way, the only driver who's really on the medium tyres, apart from Jake Denahan, who's decided to go for that as well, I've only just noticed. So that's something else to add into the mix. Denahan on the medium tyres here.
Yeah, that's something I was just going to bring up, because I assumed that he was on the hard tyres like everyone else, which meant, as I was saying, he was going to have a short stint at the end, whereas now he's probably going to go double medium. But the thing is, now he's on fresh mediums when other people are on old hard. So this is his stint where he's going to have the advantage, and that's why he's catching up already down to 3 seconds to the lead. He's halved the gap already in just a handful of laps. He's definitely got the pace this stint, and the issue for the people like Grankvist is that they're going to be obviously starting to look in their mirrors, and as soon as you start doing that, you start potentially making some mistakes as well. It's going to be a very tricky next 10 laps for these top 3 drivers to try and keep Denahan behind.
Top 3 or so really concertinaing together right now. Grankvist will now be giving the DRS to Mocek. I think he will. Simoncic will be still getting it from his teammate. Denahan not far away from catching them as well. He needs to ideally catch them before he needs to catch them getting the DRS before those tyres fall away, so that he can stay with the hard tyre runners, because you would imagine that those medium tyres are going to lose a bit of performance at some point. And when that happens, he needs that little bit more speed down the straight to just help him along a little bit. But I'm not sure how long they're going to really last here for Denahan. Is he even going to be able to get there and start making moves here on these medium tyres?
Yeah, he's probably only got about another 10 to... struggling to get 15, so maybe 10 laps actually and go to hards at the end. That would probably work out quite nicely for him. But the issue is, of course, that he's going to have to do the overtakes in this stint potentially. Grankvist was the slowest out of these cars the last couple of laps, so he's starting to slow down a little bit. The 2 burst cars are coming his way, and maybe they are starting to push a little bit, knowing that they've got Denahan chasing them down in behind, as we've seen last, who dropped down a little bit because Peter Burlak has got up into that 8th place. The 2 Ferraris start to go up the road a little bit.
They do. Lottie not quite having the pace here at the moment for Race Clutch, but it is a good opening drive from him. He'll be partnering Robin Panzer, by the way, for the majority of this season, but see, we can see Christoph Schell down in 18th position, currently substituting in for them. Top three separated by less than a second as we stand. Liam Duval is just behind Colin Spork. There's a couple of drivers who maybe could be a bit further up the order based on previous performances, but Spork has got a long way to go to retaining his World Championship here in 2023. A long way back at the moment. Jake Dennehan is in the DRS now, though, of Jone Simoncic. I just wonder how long he's going to leave it until he starts making moves. Probably not long at all. The home straight, he'll be around the corner.
The issue is they're getting backed up so much by Grankvist there, who's a few tenths slow, as I was mentioning on the last couple of laps. And actually, Grankvist has got a little bit of a gap this lap, so maybe the pace just starting to come back to him, maybe using a little bit more of the hybrid system. But yeah, this is going to be difficult. What does Simoncic do? Does he start now to attack his teammate? I mean, he's already got DRS, but does he now start to attack? Are they going to try and hold up Dennehan? It's certainly going to be a tricky situation. Mrocek has a look, though, in towards turn one. Grankvist lead, I think, is going to be swapping around pretty soon.
Mrocek with a decent run out of 2 and 3 at the moment, but I don't know if this straight's quite long enough for him and whether he's going to be able to make it on the Super Venturi. I don't think so. We will remain single file in towards another lap of this race. On board with David Mrocek we go in towards the sweepers here. 5, 6 and then 7. A little bit of dirty air up in front, a little bit of aero wash. Mrocek struggling to hold in the wheels there of Grankvist as they begin to slide their way through these slower corners. Grankvist seems to have decent pace at the moment, but I do think your point about watching the mirrors a little bit earlier on was probably correct, really. I think Grankvist started to see Mrocek gaining a little bit, and then once he started looking at his mirrors there, Mrocek was gaining quite a lot.
And in the background is Dennehan going to have a run towards Simoncic. No, it's not quite, but the top four now within 1.5 seconds. Crazy to see the cars so close up towards the front of the VCO World Championship, as we pretty much hit the halfway point in the race as well. So this is looking pretty nice to get a pretty nice ending to the first race of the season. 4 cars at this moment in time leading the way. We do have a few cars behind, another 4 cars trying to follow them. Easier said than done as ever, as Simoncic gets close to his teammate.
Really close to his teammate now. Surely this is the moment for Jone Simoncic in towards turn number 1. Grankvist in front. Simoncic pulls alongside. Grankvist giving him a little bit of slipstream as well to maybe help him along to the lead. He goes from third to going side by side for the lead into turn 1. It could be 2 in 2 DRS zones here for Jone Simoncic. Out of turn 2 and 3 they'll go. Jan Grankvist out in front right now, has to pull to defend. In towards turn 4. Simoncic goes even further to the inside. He decided to back out of it for now. Mrocek tucks in third place, just behind his teammate. Grankvist stays alive for the moment, but the 3-time champion is into second.
Yeah, that was a little bit awkward. I don't know if he was slightly hesitant or maybe he was just a little bit too far away. But it's definitely the right opportunity to do that, because now Dennehan is all over the back of Mrocek, and this is going to be a very difficult lap for Mrocek to hold on. So definitely some good team play there to swap it around at the right time to let Simoncic still attack Grankvist, because Mrocek wasn't doing so much to get Grankvist at that point of the race. I'm sure they're all in control of what they're doing, though, as Dennehan now is going to be looking to get himself back up onto the podium. It just depends how much does he want to push at this point in the race. He knows he's got that tyre advantage. He doesn't need to do anything too crazy.
No, he doesn't. This is the battle for 17th, with Matthew Williams holding off Schell and Van Vukas as well. The latter portion of the points, just up in front of these, are the 2 Burst Esports cars of Skobron and Hoyer, who have been gaining over the course of the last few laps. Interesting to see that Simoncic hasn't actually been able to get that close to Grankvist on that lap, actually, and he won't be able to have a move here in towards turn 1, you would have thought. He'll close in with slipstream and DRS, but he won't go for it at the opening hairpin of the lap. It was at turn 4 where the side-by-side moment briefly took place last lap, but I don't think Simoncic is going to force it on this one either. We're over the half-distance mark in this one now, though, and I just wonder whether once again Simoncic is going to play this one smart, sit in second place, just save his stuff for later. Save hybrid, save tyres, and he'll strike later on.
Talking of saving, Jake Dennehan right behind them. I was expecting him to blast past. The fact that he hasn't for the last couple of laps, where he was almost pushing David through a couple of corners, I reckon Jake is just saving at this point in the race. He does need to look out for Adam Maguire, who's slowly but surely under the radar catching them for a top 5 battle. But definitely Dennehan is in a very good position now. I think he's saving a little bit of that push pass that he would have used in the early part or the second half of the first stint when he was trying to get that gap. But he's definitely not doing anything too aggressive just yet.
We've even got Adam Maguire closing in here very soon for the DRS. The Ferrari guys are not quite able to get there for the moment, but Maguire might be able to for R8G. Rodchek seems to be struggling here, and maybe Dennehan's going to be forced into going for something here. I think, as you say, he wanted to sit here and save for the moment. Both tyres and hybrid just stay in with these guys, as the mediums are going to generally wear away over the course of the next 10 laps, but he might not have that option anymore with Rodchek losing time. We're on board with him right now. The pole sitter now moving on to the podium places. Down the inside in towards turn 1. Rodchek's going to fight this one with a bit of hybrid. Down towards the end of the straight. It's so late on the break from the pole. Too late, far too late. And Dennehan's up to 3rd place. Simoncic gets close to Granqvist, and Dennehan does as well. They'll run up towards turn 4 as well. It will be a single file, excuse me. Dennehan, though, back onto the podium as Rodchek makes that mistake in towards turn 1.
Yeah, he tried to fight it, but I don't think he really could. I don't think anything that he would have done there would have helped, because of course Dennehan had the inside line as well, and just a difficult situation. He did try, to be fair to him, but he wanted to try and help his teammate, but it looks like Dennehan is going to be starting to push now, going to be getting past Yannick Simoncic, I would assume, this lap, or maybe at the end of this lap, in towards turn 1. So definitely this is Dennehan's choice to start pushing. We saw this in the first stint as well. He sat and sat and sat, then he starts pushing towards the end. We're already on lap 30, so we're already seeing some longer stints. Granqvist surely is going to be thinking about coming into the pit lane, maybe in sort of 5 to 7 laps time as well. It's certainly starting to open up a little bit.
Adam Maguire still can't quite get here, by the way, inside the top 5. Out of the penultimate corner they'll go towards the final one for the Super Venturi driver. Jan Granqvist has led quite a few laps of this Bahrain Grand Prix now, on his way to attempting a race win here. Out of the final turn for Jake Dennehan, who's starting to stretch his legs now. DRS open for all of them. Simoncic is coming for the lead here. He'll deploy a bit of DRS and the hybrid as well. He'll go down the inside of Granqvist into turn 1. He'll get that place as well. Just about slows it up in time. There'll be a better run from Granqvist and Dennehan out of turns 2 and 3, you'd imagine. Here comes Dennehan on the mediums as well. Down the inside he'll go. On Granqvist up towards turn 4. Granqvist fights it, but Dennehan is through. And now it's Simoncic versus Dennehan at the front. Simoncic looking to pull away from the field.
Yeah, he doesn't want to let Dennehan have an easy race victory today. He's really putting to it, and the NX27 driver is going to have to work hard and try and find a way through. Simoncic is doing everything right at this moment in time. It's just, of course, the tyre advantage at this point in the race is going towards the way of the Irish driver in behind him. So Yanni needs to be careful to not obviously burn himself out either with the tyres or the hybrid defending this, because I think Dennehan is going to get past. But at least look how far Granqvist has dropped back already. We're really starting to see some pushing coming between these drivers.
We've got somebody off in the first sector, but I can't quite tell you who it is for the moment. But there we are. Some problem for somebody out there at the back, further back at the front. It's Yannick Simoncic leading. Dennehan closing in and staying with him. His medium tyres staying in the right range for quite some time now in this race, and he's so close in towards the final corner. Will there be another move here for the race lead in the Bahrain Grand Prix? It will be. It's going to be Jake Dennehan here with the overspeed of dreams up towards turn 1. He'll be the new race leader. Simoncic tucks back into the slipstream even. He doesn't try and re-overtake him in towards turn 1, but I don't think he's too displeased about that, to be honest. I don't know if Simoncic really wants to lead at this stage. He'll certainly not want to let those medium tyres run away from him too much, though.
Yeah, what is Dennehan going to do? This is his push strategy. We've seen it. Get to the front, start to push away. Is he going to have any sort of life left in the tyres to be able to do that? Looks like he's been quite controlled throughout this race, so I think he will be able to do. I think we haven't actually seen the full pace of Dennehan during this race. I think he has got a few tenths in hand that he's going to start to try and pull away now and really assert his dominance. We've only got 22 laps left in the race, so we are now in the final 24 laps left in the race. So we are now getting close towards the pit window if you want to go hard to the end of the race. So any driver who is going to be struggling soon, so it's definitely getting to that time where they're starting to think about the next pit stop.
Yes, maybe that's why Dennehan has sort of reopened the taps here a little bit and started to use those medium tyres a bit. He's really starting to stretch out this group now. Nearly a second out to Simičić, another second back to Granqvist, about 8 tenths or so to Mocek. Maguire's closed in quite well here, and despite all the closing he's been doing, he has actually got something left here to just respond with at the moment. Down towards the final corner they'll go. Simičić just responds a little bit, stays in the DRS. I think Granqvist is going to stay there as well. There'll be a bit of weaving around here to break the slipstream for Dennehan. Simičić will close in once again. Dennehan not quite able to break that 1 second mark on this lap.
Yeah, I know the DRS is quite powerful, but I am surprised how close Simičić has been able to stay. I thought Dennehan was just going to absolutely run away with it. Maybe that just shows he's not pushing the absolute 100%, or maybe it means we're just going to have a really nice battle for the final third of this race coming up pretty soon, the Bahrain Grand Prix. So yeah, it's been a great one so far. Very interesting strategic battle, and the drivers choosing when to push, because they can't push 100% of every single second of the race, so they've got to be careful when they can do that, and so far it's working out to be a nice balance up and down the field.
Petr Berlak is into 7th place right now, by the way, just ahead of Alex Siebel, runner-up from 2022. Is Jordan still in 6th place, but these guys not quite able to make inroads in the 2 Ferraris, nor the Alpine of Berlak. The Alpine of Colin Sport, by the way, has made another pit stop, I believe. Second and final pit stop of the day. Sport back to 20th position. Not far behind these guys, actually. Back in the pack. This is Michi Hoyer, just in front of Christoph Schell, in 14th position. And to have gained 10 places on the day for Michi Hoyer is not bad. The overall result in isolation won't look too good, but considering the qualifying position, Hoyer can't be too disappointed with gaining 10 on the day.
Yeah, that's a lot of places. He's had a lot of overtaking, I'm sure, his stream. His personal stream will be a very interesting watch to watch back later as well. I'm sure there's been a lot of overtakes, and he hasn't actually got too far to get Callas in front of him either. The issue is there's 10 seconds ahead of that to get up to inside the top 12, so definitely a tricky day. A bit further back behind this battle, though, I think Granqvist just had to defend a little bit from Mocek for that 4th place, as Adam Maguire now is all over the back of them as well for that 3-car train as it starts to splinter inside this top 5.
Oh dear, side by side between Liam de Waal and Zolt Zux here in towards the first corner. The RHG man getting through up into the top 10 once again, I believe for the first time today on merit. Of course, pit stops had him up in 2nd place earlier on, but he's now inside the top 10 pretty much on merit here. Not far behind Tom Lartier, who's really struggling in the midpoint of this race actually. Was up near the Ferraris earlier on, but it's now about 7 seconds behind that portion of the order at the moment. As you rightly say though, Cam, we're getting into that pit stop window now, and I just wonder whether Granqvist wouldn't be a bad idea for him to come in. I know he pitted early in that first cycle, but it probably needs to get in again soon here, because he is starting to struggle now.
The issue is it's right sort of on the limit of those hard tyres going to the end, and then also struggling and being a little bit slow in the last 5 laps, so it's a very difficult trade-off. As long as he can hold on into this battle, although he is really starting to drop off from Simičić now, so this is definitely a decision-making time for them, but I just don't think, I think now's a little bit too early for him to pit if he wants to be competitive at the end of the race as well. I'd rather have fresher tyres in the final stint than holding on, but oh no, actually maybe you're right, maybe that is too soon, and if that goes to hard to the end, I think we're not going to be seen challenging for the podium as such, but maybe let's see when the others decide to come into the pit lane, because Granqvist was also the first to pit in the first round of pit stops.
Well, if he's got the track position, he might be able to defend from the front, you never know. He's in now though. Latu and Zook's also in. The pit stop window very much open. Spork's already been in. Mitchy Hoyer's in, as well as Sander Callas as well down pit lane. Greg is going to have an advantage here of coming out in clean air as well. I'm not sure whether he would have planned for that quite, but he's in 10th right now in the Super Venturi with 11 seconds in front of him. That's a super big help for him compared to his first stint, especially where he did have to battle through a few cars.
Yeah, he'll be able to just go his own pace, control those tyres and make sure he's got enough life at the end when all of the other drivers he was battling come out. I think it's going to be a difficult one for him to fight for the lead today, but getting a podium for Super Venturi is going to be the goal for Mr. Jan Grankvist. And the issue for him is now, how is he going to do that? He's got all the time in the world, though, to work with his engineer and try and sort that one out. Simic, though, up towards the front. Within a second of Denahan, he's kept there. And this is really good because Denahan, of course, has the tyre advantage, but Simic isn't letting him get away.
Let's not forget that Jake Denahan has never even finished on the podium in the FSR World Championship before. He has competed in 10 races previously. 8 races previously. But has never been on the podium. I don't even believe he's been inside the top 10 at the end of one of these races, as far as I can see here, Cam, Jake Denahan. But he is right up there today, right in contention. They'll put a lap on one of the cars right now. He's got a fierce competitor, though, hasn't he, in Juraj Simicic?
As you said earlier, 3-time world champion. He knows what he's doing. And also, the 3 years prior to him getting 3 in a row, he had 3 years of second in a row. So he basically had 6 years in a row of being first or second, which is absolutely crazy. And he's definitely in the Hall of Fame as such of FSR. Van Vukas, though, coming towards the inside of turn number 1. As Sella there goes back another position. And the NX27 team having a pretty strong day. 2 cars in the top 11. Van Vukas, a rookie in terms of the World Championship. Denahan, his second proper season, proper go at it. But they're having a good showing.
Really good showing so far from them. And the pole position as well, of course. We can't forget for Jake Denahan. That will go to their team as well. Here's Super Venturi in the World Championship for 2023. Jan Grankvist leading the line there. Jukka-Pekka Laulu in his World Championship season debut down in 17th position right now, but was very close to a Pro Series Championship back last season, so expecting a good year of improvement from him, quite possibly, over the course of the 9 races this season. Nearly a second for Denahan, who's really keeping these mediums in very good nick as this goes on. Doesn't really seem to be losing any pace at all and continues to pull out a gap on Simicic and Mrocek especially as well. The gap and the battle for third place now more than 5 seconds away.
Yeah, so Simicic is at the point now where he can take hards to the end for sure. Medium's a little bit of a wait. Mrocek does come in though. Is Mrocek going to be on the hards then, maybe to the end? I think this is just a little bit too long for the mediums if you want to have pace at the end. Almost contact of Mrocek. Fortunately, managed to back out of that one and avoid the contact, but that was close to ending their races.
It very much was. It's Alex Siebel down in pit lane for Ferrari there, who made the contact with him. Mrocek is indeed out on the hard tyres, I can report, and Siebel will likely do the same. It is too long. I mean, what kind of region are we expecting them to get to, Cam, if we're going to see mediums to the end of the race for one of these drivers?
15 laps, so that'll be lap 40, end of lap 42. Give or take, of course, a lap or two you can definitely save, but I wouldn't want to say 5 laps.
Oh, that is quite substantial. We'll wait and see. This is the battle for 9th place, the new battle for 9th place. David Mrocek, having recently made his way out, he's ahead of Van Vukas and Schell. And another example of the undercut as well. Grankvist 4.5 seconds in front of Mrocek.
Yeah, and Mrocek was struggling there for quite some time, and just wasn't able to battle in the best way. I don't think, lost some time to his teammate Simicic, but definitely the undercut is a big thing. But the issue is now for Mrocek is that because he's not going to do what Simicic and Denahan are doing, by my assumption is they're going to have mediums at the end. Mrocek is going to be on the hards and doesn't have much differential to Grankvist, so I don't know if he's going to be able to catch up to that battle. But Denahan and Simicic, if they can stay out for the mediums at the end, maybe stretch it to like a 17-lap stint in a couple of laps' time, then they'll definitely be a lot faster in this final stint of the race.
Getting a bit of trouble right now from one of the lap cars. We believe Stavros Mudzadis, the only driver 1 lap down at the moment. Danny van der Neet has found himself 7 laps down for some reason. Couldn't
Oh,
quite
Lord.
tell you why, unless I've forgotten something. But he's a long way back at the moment in the 29th position. Giving the leaders a bit of problems right now, though, is Mercedes, because he's just come out the pit lane on new tyres. This is the battle for 10th place, though. Van Bucas and Shell still going at it. Oh, and that's a big slide for Van Bucas. Good save, I suppose, but he's not going to be able to save 10th place, I would imagine. Outside line for the race clutch car. And he will go through in towards turn 4. A little bit hesitant to turn in there, but he will take that place.
Yeah, he obviously really wanted to keep that, but couldn't get the power down through turn 3. Maybe get on the push to pass straight away as well when the tyres were not quite ready for it. And definitely, just spinning up the rear tyres and flipping around a position that he swapped around himself a few laps ago. Of course, they're trying to still get themselves up inside the top 10 on paper, but I think that is going to be a little bit too tricky, because I think the likes of Linda Vow is really the ones who's looking out for that, and they are quite a way up the road. So maybe the top 15 and still some decent points for those cars by the end of the race.
This is way further back now to the battle for 21st positions. Mark Sluter trying to make his way through into 21st, ahead of Giordano Valeriano, as we see the top 2 into the pit lane. Jake Dennehan and Juraj Simicic both in, with still many laps remaining, actually. Let's see which tyres they go on to. Dennehan will obviously get out first, having come in first as well. It looks like it's going to be hard tyres from here to the end. They're going to be able to push very hard on those to the end, though.
They certainly will. They're going to have lots of tyres. There's Grankvist, goes back towards the lead with the undercut, and that has worked out amazingly for him. But once again, he's going to have to defend on old tyres.
He will have to defend on very old tyres later on. It won't be a problem for the moment, but Jan Grankvist once again showing the rewards of a fantastic undercut there for Super Venturi. So it's Grankvist, Dennehan, Simicic, Mrocek, the top 3 at the top 4 with me right now. And you've got to say that the longer Adam Maguire and Dennis Jordan and Peter Burlak leave it, the further behind they're going to be.
Can I just say how good a strategy I think this might be from Juraj Simicic, because had he pit one lap before, then potentially Dennehan would have stayed out 5 laps and taken mediums at the end and had loads of pace. Whereas if he then didn't pit, obviously Dennehan would have then got 1 lap undercut on him. So he followed Dennehan in, and he's just doing the same thing to the end. So I think this is a really smart strategy. They are completely 1-to-1 now to the end of the race, and this should be working out pretty nicely for those two drivers to have the battle. And is this the early signs of the 2 championship contenders? Let's wait and find out.
Oh, you are dubious there, suggesting that so early on. That's a dangerous game to be playing so early on into this championship. But you could well be right, to be honest. We'll just have to wait and see. Through the final couple of corners they'll come then. Maguire and Jordan are in. They'll be miles behind. Simicic has to slide and catch the car at the end of another lap. Dennehan in the slipstream of Grankvist. And Simicic here as well. It could be 3 wide towards turn 1. Dennehan to the inside. Grankvist outside line here. Simicic goes through as well. Big slide on the way in as well for Dennehan. He gets to the 4th. So this will become the race lead. Grankvist just didn't have anything to defend with there on the straight at all.
Yeah, we definitely saw when they got sort of past the grid boxes, they turned off the push to pass, just stopped gaining on Dennehan ahead. Decided he didn't want to dump all his battery there to try and go for a risky overtake, or rather wait a little bit. But actually Dennehan's starting to pull away quite a bit, as we're seeing a change a little bit further back. Jordan getting past the race clutch there of Shell. We got Lartalou has dropped off this battle with the Ferraris, so it's pretty much all change actually up inside this top 10 battle. They are quite close also to Adam Maguire, who has also made his pit stop. So actually the Ferraris have had a pretty quiet day, but they might be in the shouts of a top 5 finish.
They very much could be, actually. Darren Mrocek, by the way, involved again in this leading battle. What we believe is going to be the top 4. Jake Dennehan, though, is so quick here. Lap 41. We're coming to 16 to go at the end of this lap here. But Dennehan is really stretching out the group again. Simicic is able to hold with him at the moment. Grankvist staying in the DRS as well, as is Mrocek, who got on right at the correct moment. Burlak, Duval and Martin all into the pit lane. This is going to become the battle 1 through 4 at the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Dennehan retakes the lead then. He tries to get away from Simicic, not able to do it on this opening lap, although he is giving everybody a real hard time right now behind him.
And still 16 laps to go. These guys have to pace themselves. They don't want to burn up all of their push to pass. They've got to keep some for the final couple of laps as ever. You've got to be playing the long game. So these guys are going to be pushing. And it's also great that they went on the hard tyres. I love that because it means they can push to the end. The hard tyres won't have any issues doing these 17 laps that they had to the end of this race. So it's going to be a battle of the push to pass, a battle of the strategy, and who wants to be leading who in the last few laps.
So everybody inside this top 4 are on hard tyres. They do not need to pit again, and it's a race to the end now between the 4 of them. Adam Maguire is on mediums behind them, also doesn't have to pit, but I don't know if he's quite going to have enough to catch them from 6 seconds back at the moment. I don't quite think so. Even despite his medium tyres, he might be able to get onto the podium. But at the moment, Denahan and Simičić just look on another level to the others, to be honest, here, Cam. Granqvist and Rocek are going to do well to hang on for the remainder of the race.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a big pace advantage. Well, I say big in the grand scheme of things. Probably just a couple of hundredths here there. But it's definitely something that I think Denahan has in his back locker. It's going to be difficult for Simičić to hold on to this. But if anyone could do it, a 3-time world champion certainly can. As we're looking a little bit further back to the top 10. Slightly quiet race from Peter Burlak so far, but he needs to get past Jukes if he wants to get up to Latu. Jukes is slightly off strategy, I believe, in terms of this battle, and he needs to look out because Liam Duval, who's slowly but surely been going up the standings over the course of the race, is now trying to get himself up into the top 10 as it stands.
I think Latu's going to struggle to finish inside the top 10 here, but by the way his race has been going, it was stronger in qualifying and in the first stint of the race than he has been ever since, really, unfortunately for him, and so could well be a bit of a cork in the bottle here for quite some time. This battle for 8th place. Zooks really weaves around and holds on to this place for now. Up into turn 4, they'll go outside line for Latu. Real long way around as it is as well, but we've seen him give it a go. Still side by side up towards turn 5 and 6. Zooks will hold on for the moment and get ground effect up to 8th place.
Yeah, actually, I'm mistaken. Zooks actually is in this battle. He just picked quite a while ago now, already 7 laps on those tyres, the same as Lartalu. They both pit on the exact same laps, so that's going to be a pretty long way for them. So they were one of these first stoppers when we got to that, like 22 laps to go. They were the ones to jump in. So it's going to be difficult for them to get to the end with some nice pace, and that is why we're starting to see Duval and Burlak coming up the inside of these 2 drivers, and I think that's why Jukes has decided to start pushing, because he sees them coming as there goes Duval all the way around the outside. It will be of turn 12. That's going to be huge. Going on to FSR World Champion. Contact between the 2 as the Alpine, of course, goes off the track, but Duval keeps holding on. Contact is made.
Dear me, that was always messy, always very messy. Burlak the one to lose out, and Duval's actually going to give the place back again. But to be honest, I don't know if Duval did an awful lot wrong there, Cam. I mean, he didn't really have a lot of places to go on the outside line at turn 12 there.
Yeah, I think Burlak did squeeze him a bit coming through 12, but Duval was completely off the track in 13, and definitely, but this is going to be the move now down on the inside of turn number 1, so he gave it back, but then straight away, a few hundred metres later, is going past. Bit of contact, further contact between the 2 as they try and work their way out through turns 2 and 3, but I think that was a fair thing to do for Duval to give it back though, because he came way off the track, came in at such a harsh angle to turn 13, spinning, or half spinning Burlak.
Lewis Hamilton got in quite a lot of trouble for doing that about 15 years ago. I don't know if you remember that. But
don't mention it.
We don't mention it. It was a controversial moment at the time that even I can remember. But there we are. That's a bit of a throwback for you. Top 4 still within 2 seconds of one another. 13 to go at the line. Denahan, Simičić, Granqvist, Rocek. Top 4. And it looks like it is going to be between them for the race win. It's hard to know where to look, though, in terms of the remainder of this race. There's so many unknowns from our point of view, Cam. We just don't know how much hybrid they've got on board, mostly.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, as we're seeing RAG and Lindeval getting in some more potential battles. They drop Burlak a little bit, but Burlak probably has some damage from that contact, unfortunately. Lartalu trying to defend, of course, as Duval gets the slipstream from Jukes up in towards the final corner. That's going to be a move, and he probably will get DRS with Jukes ahead as well, so he should be able to defend this coming in towards turn number 1. But how much can Jukes hold on to this? This is probably going to be one of his better finishes in the WC if he can hold on to it.
It is. Slipstream, and down the inside of Zooks, he'll be pushed all the way to the pit exit line, but that will be absolutely fine. Duval's up to 8th place, although he goes a bit too deep. Side by side with Zooks, just alongside him ever so briefly. There could even be a bigger battle down in towards 4 as well. Burlak and Lartier were battling side by side. The Alpine driver got up inside the top 10. He'll be very much like to be joined by his teammate. Colin Spork is in a battle with Carlos Martin, and he's currently demoted to 13th place. Not a dream start for the reigning champ.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky to come back from, especially if we see a continuation of the likes of Denahan, Simoncic, Grankvist and Rocek up the top of the races. Spork's going to be losing a lot of points today when it comes to that, which is quite an interesting one because obviously Race Clutch Alpine, sort of sister teammates and such. So they got 4 cars in the championship. They were very present in all of the discussions behind the scenes pre-season as well. So it's not like they jumped in last minute. So they should know what's going on with the car, but maybe they just haven't quite worked it out compared to the strength that Spork had last year.
And he really was strong as well. Unfortunately, that can't be repeated in the opening round of 2023. Simoncic is coming here now on Denahan. Down towards the inside at turn 1, is it? No. It's very close. He closed in very, very quickly there. And with 12 laps to go, I thought he was going to go for the lead, but decides to stay behind for the moment. That was very odd there, to be honest, because I would have thought that to catch in the way that he did there, he would have had to use quite a lot of hybrid cam, but didn't want to make the overtake after all that.
Yeah, maybe he did use some, but also maybe he was trying to force Jake to use some as well, which is always the game. If you make them defend, they use a little bit more push to pass. It's a difficult one because you don't know what the other people are on. The information literally just isn't there. So you've got to be guessing. And what's actually happening is Grankvist and Rocek are staying with this battle, though. The top 2 are definitely saving at this moment in time. We've seen the amount of times when it gets to the end of the first and second stint, Rocek and Simoncic started to push and they pulled away from Grankvist and Rocek. That hasn't happened now, so they're definitely in a bit of a saving mode.
Yeah. It is so hard to work out from where we are, though, or at least it is to me. Adam Maguire's closing in, by the way, in 5th place. He's on the medium tyres, the only one inside the top 5 do so. And he could well be joining these guys for battle on the front straight this time. I think he is going to have the DRS on this particular lap. So, at the end of lap 46, Simoncic is going to be homing in on Denahan again. Is he going to close in with quite the rate that he did last time? It looks like it. Down the straight, but once again with no indication of going to overtake. I wonder if he's just lulling Denahan into a false sense of security so that Denahan gets a little bit calm, stops looking in his mirrors so much, and when that happens, Simoncic is going to strike not too far from the end. These previous top runners to be not quite so dominant as they were previously. 2 of them look like they're going to finish 6th and 7th here, the 2 Ferraris. Berliak barely inside the top 10. Spork not inside the top 10 at all. Richie Hoyer 14th. Grover on 16th. It's a real surprise in some way. Some new names towards the front of the field. Namely the likes of Denahan and Grankvist and Maguire as well, actually, who hasn't been up there so often either. But what an opportunity this is for Jake Denahan. He's under pressure now from Simoncic, and here is the move. Down the inside and towards turn 1 once again. He fakes it, and once again he waits. He's so calm and composed here, Simoncic. He's been here so many times before that he's almost playing mind games with Denahan at the moment. Now will he strike? Up in towards turn 4. He's down the inside. Denahan will have to hang it right round the long way. It's a big slide from him as well. Whoa, nearly into the side of Simoncic. It's side by side into the sweepers. He'll go very nearly off the road. He will go off the road. Into the gravel. Back on again. Still side by side down towards turn 8. Simoncic is to the front. Denahan's not going to let him have that easily.
Certainly won't, and Grankvist is now getting involved a little bit in the background as well. These two need to be careful though. Bit of contact being made. They need to obviously keep the lid on it a little bit because we still have 9 laps to go in this race, and we don't want to see any further contact where possible. But of course they're fighting for the race lead, but that was certainly a very tight move there in turns 5 and 6, and for some reason Simoncic thinks that this is the time to go. Let's see how this one works out. Denahan is going to be sending it straight back into turn 1, I would expect.
Think so, but you never really know what twist and turn this race is going to take on next. The top 5 separated by less than 2 seconds, coming towards the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix here in the opening round of the Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship for 2023. Simoncic leads the field over the line again. He extends the margin to 3/4 of a second as well, as he realised that now's the moment to strike and get away from Denahan. Here comes his teammate David Mrocek down the inside. There's contact, and there goes Gragfist sideways in towards turn 1. Maguire's going to come out of turn 2 and 3 here and come at him as well. He'll get the slipstream advantage, not quite. He'll try and use those medium tyres, will he, in towards turn 4? Not quite. He looks up the inside. He won't go for it. The top 2 will get away as a result.
No, I don't think that was contact with Gragfist. I think that was the regen effect coming in towards the braking zone. There definitely didn't seem to be, loads of space between them, but I'm not sure. Definitely would want to see that one again. But for sure, a pretty late and aggressive move there from Mrocek, who saw the opportunity with Gragfist not really going for it up ahead on Denahan. And I think this has worked out quite well. The issue for Mrocek, he's just about on that 1 second gap for Denahan, so it's a very important move as here comes Adam Maguire up the inside. Gragfist goes to the back of the top 5, and I wonder if that's where he's going to stay for the end of the race.
I think you might be right. Those older tyres now may really start to bite and really start to hurt him in the remainder of this one. The undercuts have worked out so well, but unfortunately he's starting to pay the price for them now. Simoncic at the front, the 3-time champion, really pulling away from Denahan, who's having trouble staying with him. The gap teetering over a second at the moment. Mrocek getting closer to Denahan than he is to the other Burst Esport driver. Here we come down the straight again. He's still in the DRS for now, but it may well only be a matter of time. Denahan certainly needs to weather this storm for the moment.
Yeah, if Simoncic just had that extra 10, then Denahan was out of the DRS, it would be pretty much game over. But as ever, with the DRS zones around here, you're able to keep in and close back up. So I just hope Simoncic hasn't burned too much of the push to pass to come back, because I think that was really his goal, was to get out of the that 1 second gap. It's going to be such an interesting race to the end. I didn't think Mrocek was actually going to have the pace to come through and try and challenge, but it seems like he actually has done, as we now get a two-way fight in behind them for that 4th place as well. So crazy things happening here at Bahrain, and it's not quite following the predictions, which is always good.
Wonder what that says about what Mrocek has been saving so far in this race, though. If we've been thinking, he hasn't got the pace to be here right now, maybe he does have that pace, and he's just been saving a lot of push to pass to really unleash in the latter moments of this race. He could be a dark horse for the race win here.
He certainly could, especially if, as I just mentioned, Simoncic has burnt a little bit too much push pass there for a couple laps, trying to pull away from Denahan. Hopefully that isn't the case, and Yannick does have enough push pass. But look at Denahan, he's there. He's going to be fighting for this race victory. Don't you worry about that one, as I think Simoncic hasn't quite pushed so much on this lap, as Denahan gets the DRS once again.
Is there another opportunity to retake the race lead for Jake Denahan? Down the straight he'll come, in towards turn 1. He looks up the inside, he doesn't go for it. I think you could be right though about Simoncic here, Cam. I think he might have burnt out his push to pass and his hybrid to try and stay away from the man we're riding on board with right now, but was just not able to on that particular lap. And now he might be suffering the consequences, having 2 drivers within a second of him.
Yeah, because he's going to need to replenish that, because he can't just stay at a low level of battery. He's going to have to recharge that just a little bit, not deploy quite so much over the next few laps. The only good thing is that's going to slow down the whole pack, and Mrocek is then going to get on the back of Denahan. So it's turning into a really big 3-way battle. And to be honest, I still want to keep half an eye on Adam Maguire in behind them, trying to get on the back and making himself a possibility for the podium. There's going to be a very interesting final 5-6 laps of this Bahrain Grand Prix. We still don't know any of these top 4 really could still win the race.
Got an outside shot, hasn't he, Maguire? But it's really about the top 3 for the moment. Mrocek just hanging off the back of Denahan a little bit at the moment, but the man we're riding on board with is staying very close to the 3-time world champion. Decent penultimate turn there from Simoncic, and he does just pull away a little bit, maybe with a bit of hybrid there on the straight preceding the front one. Now into turn 14 they'll come. Denahan needs the exit here. He'll need some hybrid as well. He'll have the DRS anyway. Is he going to be close enough to have a go at Simoncic? I don't think so. Is this another attempt from Simoncic to try and break the DRS and get away from Denahan?
I don't think so. Denahan really slides it around that first corner. We saw that in the qualifying as well. He's really on the limit with how he's got his brake bias and his regen setting to just control the rear end on the absolute limit of what the tyres can do. Hopefully he doesn't burn out the rear tyres from that, but it does seem like he's been able to have really good tyre degradation over the course of the race, as Adam Maguire has got past Grankvist, of course, and he's trying to pull away, but Grankvist in that DRS is keeping himself in with a shout.
I think it's going to be too far for Adam Maguire and Jan Grankvist to cross at the moment, but I think they'll have enough to stay in front of the two Ferraris. It might well be 4th and 5th for the two of them. At the back, this is the battle for 10th place. Tom Lartiu's still clinging on to that position at the moment, but not by very much at all. 0.8 of a second separate the top three right now. It's closest to 2 tenths even through the left-hander of turn 11. Denahan again staying as close as possible. It does seem that Simoncic is just fast enough in all of the right moments for now. He's still got another 5 laps to do that though, of course. They're just out of the penultimate corner right now, heading towards the final one. And half a second was exactly the margin that he had this time last lap as well, where Denahan wasn't actually able to make any moves anyway. Rocek is here as well, and maybe he could help out his teammate. We'll wait and see on that. It's a good exit from Denahan here. Simoncic will just respond with a bit of hybrid, and then the DRS starts. Denahan will start to it gets a little bit of straight line speed on the front straight. He'll close in. Rocek will close in as well, but they'll all stay in the same positions once more. Simoncic slides slightly out of 2 and 3. Here comes Denahan again. He won't be close enough for a move at turn 4. It's a waiting game at the moment in the closing laps.
I think Simoncic went a little bit too early that about 5 laps ago when he tried. Obviously, if it worked out, it probably would have been good if he got outside the DRS zone, but I think he just went that a little bit too early because now it hasn't worked, so we're in this really awkward position for about 4 or 5 laps until we get to probably the final 2 laps of the race when they're actually going to start battling again. So this is a very difficult time. Again, some battling in towards turn 1 and 2, a bit further back. Santa Callis a bit lower down than we were expecting, getting very close down the exit of turn 3, up towards this back straightaway towards Kostas Van Bucas, but he can't quite get past.
This is a bit back, further back in the order. Alice with Matthew Williams not too far behind either, and Yukapeka Lalu, by the way, the final driver, inside the points at the moment in 20th position, further down in the standings. Out of the penultimate corner come the leaders again. It's same old story really. 3-time champion Yerny Simoncic in front, and now Denahan's got to think a little bit about Rocek, because the pole in the background is beginning to not be so much in the background and start to come to the foreground of Denahan's mind. Although a bit of a mistake through the final corner there has put him at bay for another lap. They'll go down towards turn 1 in a line again. The top 5 are back together again though. The DRS train has been restored again.
And that just shows that Simoncic is saving. He's holding up this pack, not necessarily on purpose, just because he can't, because he burnt so much. In that part is Denahan getting closer and closer up towards turn 4 now. He's just going to sit behind. So yeah, this is definitely a saving part of the race again. This is a game of how much can you harvest, how much can you regen for the final couple laps, and this is going to be a really entertaining moment, almost like a green-white checker that we see in other forms of motorsport when we get to the final couple laps, I reckon, because it's going to be pretty much whoever is leading when we get towards the final couple laps is probably going to be right under pressure, and then someone slipstreaming past them.
Surely Denahan recognises now that Simoncic is saving here, Cameron, and he needs to get in front at this point, because if he stays behind, then Simoncic is going to unleash all of that power towards the end of the race, and he'll run out of laps to overtake, surely.
But in that case, Denahan is probably saving as well and using the DRS to pull him along. So at the same time, he's also saving. The only difference is maybe Yerny used maybe 20% too much laps ago, and now they're both going up 1% at a time, so that 20% differential might still be there as well. So certainly a cat and mouse game as we come to the final corner for one more time. Top 5 all in the shot, which is what we love to see. There'll be lap 55 we're coming on to, so 3 laps to go here in Bahrain.
3 more times around the Sakhir International Circuit. Denahan still in the DRS, using the full slipstream as well down towards turn 1, but still not using the inside line to try and make a move. Is it going to be a waiting game right for the very end here? And that's somewhat difficult to believe. There's Maguire just in the middle of this one at the moment. They're still single file here in these top 5 positions. saving just a little bit, waiting for the right moment to strike, and at the moment, that moment is not quite now. Down the inside goes Peter Berlak. Where's he come from? He's overtaking Alex Siebel. This final stint for Berlak has been fantastic. Those medium tyres holding out very well.
I think Siebel's dropping off though. His teammate's 3 seconds up the road. I wonder if there was an issue for Siebel, or is it just struggling a bit, maybe either with push-pass usage or with the tyres coming into these closing stages of the race. But either way, as you say, Berlak is having a really good second half of this race. He was a bit quiet in the first stint, but he's slowly but surely working his way up and leading the Alpine train.
Sorry, I thought Danahan was going to go for it there. He didn't quite. He tucks back in. This is Sluter back in the pack with Mika Hakimi. For 22nd position. No points on the line here, but purely pride. Expect more from virtual drivers by TX3 next round, when hopefully they can have a bit of a better time of things, but not a bad battle between the two of them. Out front though, they will take the final corner once again, and the penultimate lap will commence. It's 3/4 of a second now for Jurgen Simoncic. Is this his last break for freedom as he tries to win the Bahrain Grand Prix ahead of Jake Dennehan? It's side by side for 4th place though, as Jan Grankvist still has got something left in his tyres here. He goes down the inside of Adam Maguire, whose tyres are probably falling away now. He went for the medium compound, Grankvist on the hards. That race might just be coming to him at the moment. Change for 4th place.
Yeah, Maguire wasn't happy about that. He was wiggling down the front straight, probably trying to say, oh, don't overtake, keep me in there. But, I mean, if he's slow and Grankvist thinks he's going to get himself a podium today, he's going to go for it. And rightly enough, he made that move stick as Dennehan's getting closer once again. You're right, Simoncic tried to make a break for it for the final couple of laps, but he hasn't been able to do it. Dennehan sliding on the rear end, though, of his NX27 car. Just a lap and a half to go. 4 DRS zones. Who's going to come out on top?
Pressure on these two right now is absolutely unbelievable. The first round win on the line here in Bahrain. Dennehan closes again. There won't be a move into 11. It will likely be into either turn 1 or turn 4. Let's not forget, Jake Dennehan has never finished inside the top 10 in an FSR World Championship race. He could be about to break that with a race win here. Jurgen Simoncic knows what this feeling is like though. He's won 3 titles in the past and he's defending from the front, having led most of the final stint of this race. Jake Dennehan has never let him go though, and he will not right to the very end. Through the final corner for the penultimate time, Simoncic has to use everything he's got right now, but it's slipstream and DRS for Jake Dennehan. Towards turn 1, he closes in. He's got enough hybrid to go for it. Simoncic with a late defence. It's down the inside for Dennehan. On turn 1, he breaks very late. Simoncic forced to tuck back in, and Jake Dennehan has taken the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix on the very final lap. He's got DRS for the second straight as well. He'll defend into turn 4, and he's only corners away from his first win.
And Simoncic is going to have such a difficult time to get back with this. I assume Jake has a bit of push to pass left in his locker to push away from Simoncic as well. And Simoncic only has 1 proper DRS zone down the short back straight. And I don't think that's going to quite be enough. Has he got anything left in that Burst Esport machine to try and come back? As side by side in the mid pack as well as Lartelu goes round the outside of turn 4.
He's trying dearly to hold on to the top 10 here, and it's getting ever more fierce down there as well. But Jake Dennehan right now is using everything he's got. It's 3/4 of a second. It goes to more. 0.8 of a second. Jake Dennehan might well just be able to reach out and get this one here at the end of this race on the very last lap in towards turn 1. He threw everything he had at this race. Simoncic threw everything he had in defence, but it doesn't look like it's going to turn out to be enough. Let's see who's got the hybrid up towards the final corner. It looks like Dennehan will have enough. Either way, into the final turn he will come, and out of it, it will be Jake Dennehan to win the Bahrain Grand Prix and take the opening round of the Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship in 2023. It's his only top 10 finish in this series, and it's a race win ahead of one of the series' best ever drivers.
And in the background, Deadless Jordan got Adam Maguire on the final lap as well to get us inside the top 5. Maguire dropping off. Liam Duval, his teammate, gets P9, and Lartelu just holds on to P10 as there's crashes in the background too.
Who on earth is that? It's Shell, isn't it? Actually, the other race clutch car. Spin off on the last lap here. Should be fine. They should all get points because Darius Andre's 13 seconds away from getting the final point at the moment. They'll all trickle across the line in 1s and 2s at the moment. But what a final lap we've seen. What an end to that race we saw as well. And what a prospect for the remainder of 2023. If that is anything to go by, we're in for quite a treat.
It's so amazing to see the a younger driver coming up and challenging the drivers who've been around for absolutely years. Jake Dennehan, of course, started out even in academy in about 2020, and just slowly worked his way up. Got himself a WC seat with Edge Esports last year, and as you say, didn't even get inside the top 10. So we were thinking, oh yeah, maybe he's not the one. But then Stock Car Series in the autumn, the FSR off-season he comes out, wins that. Pre-season of 2023, wins that. First race of the season, wins that. This is looking on a very good trajectory for Jake Dennehan.
It is, but then again, it's a long season, so we just better hold our horses and see how it pans out. But very excited for him, and very happy for him as well to be able to do that as well. I don't know many drivers who have been able to come here and take their first top 10 with a race win. I'm sure there is somebody, but it doesn't happen very often at all. I think it's fair to say. Let's take a look at the race results if we can before we take in some of the driver interviews here this evening. Jake Dennehan taking that win by less than a second ahead of the two burst cars, Juraj Simicic and David Mrocek. Jan Granqvist to fourth is with Dennis Jordan inside the top five at the end. Adam Maguire slipped to sixth late on. Petter Burlak seventh ahead of Alex Siebel, the other RHE driver of Liam DeVal, ninth ahead of Tom Larty, who somehow hung on to 10th place despite defending an awful lot throughout the latter portion of that one. Colin Spork 11th in the defence of his world title as Carlos Martin finishes just behind. Ground Effect with the Zooks in 13th ahead of the other burst cars, Hoyer and Skrovron 14th and 15th. Matthew Williams 16th in his first full season debut in the World Championship. Sander Kallas 17th and Kostas Van Vukas, Christoph Stel and Jukka-Pekka Laulu round out the 20 drivers scoring points. Darius Andre just misses out there with Mark Suter. Both Arnage Brabham cars will miss out. Mika Hakimi, and really unfortunate for Jonas Braksok to be down in 24th. The pro champion from last season, Cosmo Pasuto, finishing down in 26th ahead of Giordano Valeriano. Martin Mergli 27th ahead of Savrov Mercedes, the final driver to finish the race. Danny Van Der Neet and Yannick Bock are retirees at the end of that race. What a race it was. 57 laps, Bahrain Grand Prix, an absolute thriller as well. We are joined now, hopefully, by Jake Dennehan, who is with us at the moment in the commentary booth. Jake, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. Just how are you feeling, and how were you feeling on that final lap there in that battle?
I can't believe it, man. I'm shaking so much, to be honest. I've never really battled at the top of the WC before, so it's a new experience.
A great race between you and Juraj. Just what is it like trying to balance the hybrid and manage the hybrid, saving it, harvesting it, using it at the right moments? What is that like, and what was the right way to do it in the end for you there?
Yeah, it was a game throughout the whole race, really. I used a lot of it at the start, and then I started regenerating then. When I was just following Juraj at the end, I was saving up my battery so I could attack. And yeah, it worked out in the end, so I'm happy.
And what about the rest of the season now? We'll be back in a few weeks, of course. How are you feeling going into the rest of the season now? You very comfortable with the car, I'd imagine?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't expect to even really be fighting in the top three, so it's getting pole when I did it in qualifying was a big surprise for me. I just want to say congrats to Juraj because he's a very clean racer and I respect him a whole bunch. Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us, Jake, and congratulations on your win.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Jake Dennehan there in first spot on top of the podium, just ahead of Juraj Simicic, who also joins us now. Juraj, welcome to the booth as well. It's great to have you back in the World Championship, and what a race we saw there. Just describe the last lap from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, before describing the last lap, big congrats to Jake. He really, he tried an interesting strategy, and in the end, it kind of went about who is just better on track, and he did his job and he won, so big congrats to him. About my last lap, my defending, it's not something that I'm happy of. I think I spent all my defending expertise in GT Challenge some weeks ago, and I should have taken different lines, but either way, Jake still had like upper hand, and potentially it would be better if I just stayed behind him the last few laps. But considering that we started preparing a week ago because there were so many other races, this is a fantastic result. And also David, teammate from Burst next to you, in P3. That's like, I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, it's a great day across the board for your team in Burst. I mean, tell me a little bit about what it's like managing the hybrid and this new system now that you have. Just how much of an effect did it have on the battle that we actually saw at the end there? Do you think that, well, obviously it would have been very different without it, but how do you manage that over the course of the race and when you're in a battle like you were at the end there?
Yeah, it allows for some interesting strategies within the race. So you can push hard, get a position, but then you need 10 or 15 laps to recharge the battery. And in the end, the issue was that I had full battery and I needed to overspend my electricity. Otherwise, I would run into like region off mode in the hairpins, which is not good as my brake bias would be way off. So I needed to spend it rather than save it, and I saw Jake ahead probably also being on full battery, and I was really afraid that people behind would just strike me in some lap out of last corner. I felt like I had some good pace, so I used part of that battery to overtake, and I think for Bahrain it was very well balanced after all. You could recharge quite significant margin. I'm afraid it's gonna be much less of a strategy effect for Barcelona, but let's see, it's gonna be maybe more like push to pass at Barcelona on tracks like that where region is not possible, but for this track it was quite fun.
It's very entertaining to watch as well. Yoni, congratulations on second and thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you.
So much. Yoni Simicic's there as well, just ahead of David Mocek, who also joins us in a double burst esport podium. You were sat there in third for most of that race there, David. Just what were you feeling in those final few laps, seeing what was going on in front of you? Did you ever feel like you could get involved yourself with those front two?
Hello everyone. To be honest, not really, because like last 10 laps I knew that Jernej, well, we were on the same voice chat with Jernej, so I knew that he had much more battery than me. I pretty much, and also like his tires were much fresher, so I pretty much spent all my energy to just be able to keep up with Jake's and Jernej's DRS. So it was never really I never really thought that I would have a shot for the victory. I could only hope that well, two guys ahead of me will make some mistake fighting, but they didn't. So yeah, but still, I think I'm pretty happy with the result.
What about the season overall, David? What are you hoping to achieve from 2023?
Probably the main target would be to win my first FSR race. And by the way, huge congratulations to Jake. Really awesome job, and I think he was. Yeah, I think we can say that he was the quickest today, perhaps. So, yeah, for me, I would love to achieve it as well in the future races. But apart from that, I think it would be nice to just keep the P1 in Constructor Championship, because I think at the moment we have it with Jernej. Because, yeah, I'm not sure about it, because I'm not sure what was position of Jake's teammate, but I think. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
probably do. It's all very complicated though. Don't get us to do maths right now. It's only round one. But yeah, certainly we'll figure it out as we go along. David, congratulations on a podium, and a double podium, of course, for the team. And thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks for the kind words. Cheers.
Very much there to David as well. Well, that just about does it for the Bahrain Grand Prix here, Cam. A very, very exciting race indeed, and a great taste as to what we can expect through 2023.
Yeah, I was really hoping that this hybrid would add some interesting strategy to the race, and it definitely did. So it looks like it's going to be a great season, and of course, we have some nice tracks coming up as well. We go back to Barcelona in a few weeks' time, where we haven't been for quite a few years. So how the driver's going to handle that is going to be a very interesting one indeed. So I can't wait for that. And of course, as ever for the VCO World Championship, we never really know who's going to win the race.
We certainly don't. Make sure you join us, though, very, very soon for the next rounds of the FSR Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship in 2023. It's going to be a fantastic show indeed, and I hope you will join us throughout the broadcast as we bring you every race. The Academy, the Pro, and also the World Championship as well. But until we see you next time, in just a couple of weeks' time at Barcelona for round 2, I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Cam Roger here this evening. And until we see you at Barcelona, it's goodbye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to FSR World.
Who's going to break Haystack's world title?
For my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Itchy Hoy is going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!